Chapter 1245. At this time, Wang Wan had already changed her clothes in the dressing room below the stage. She wore a pink dress with many gold and silver threads. Part of her hair hung down from her temples, while the rest draped over her shoulders. The head ornament was inserted almost all over her head, trembling and reflecting the light. Other than her eyes, the rest of her face was covered by a horizontal veil, and there was a red dot between her eyebrows. When the song started, that set of instruments was used. This set of instruments was usually not taken out casually outside. Even when eating in a restaurant, there was no drum accompaniment. At first, the people around thought that it was a jia drum, but later they realized that it wasn't. Before they could figure it out, they saw a woman in pink walk up from the slanted steps below. She had a small microphone around her neck, and there was a long line connecting it to the speaker. From another place, a group of men and women floated up. Some wore loose dresses, some wore tight short shirts, some held wine glasses, some held swords, and some held fruit platters. It was a very mixed scene. Worldly affairs, laughable infatuation is the most boring, supercilious, all right. The voice came from the woman on the stage as the audience watched. Each and every one of them widened their eyes and opened their mouths. Even the children didn't shout blindly. This woman was really too beautiful. That figure, that voice, and that gaze, they couldn't see clearly. It was too far away. While the people were marveling at the performer's beauty, they were also conquered by the comfortable tune and lyrics. Zhang Xiaobao could understand the feelings of the people. If this wasn't a pentatonic mode, the people might feel uncomfortable and have to listen a few more times to get used to it. Now that it was a silent mode, and with a special arrangement, it was refreshing. Zhang Xiaobao knew that people who listened to this song for the first time would be attracted. After all, those who weren't attracted were in the minority. There was no other way. You couldn't let everyone admire you. The only thing you needed to do was to put more effort into the people who admired you. Wang Wan had also specially practiced this kind of spinning stage control. She practiced it in her own courtyard. The difference was that the stage was spinning, and now she was the one spinning. She continued to sing, "When I wake up, I smile to people. In my dreams, I forget. Sigh, it's too early. The next life is hard to predict. Love and hate are written off. To drink and sing. I only wish to be happy until I'm old." At this moment, the drums suddenly played a small continuo, and then the hanging cymbals, the stepping cymbals, and the ground drum sounded one after another. Then, no matter how cold the wind is, I don't want to run away. No matter how beautiful the flowers are, I don't want them. Let me float. Wang Wan sang the first part of Endure Me Float, with a strong sense of rhythm. When it hooked people's hearts, the four words, "Allow me float," accompanied by the swaying of her body like a willow, expressing the meaning of this sentence incisively and vividly. This kind of fast rhythm suddenly turned into a soft and tenacious effect, conquering everyone in an instant. Some people in the audience held their breaths, some clenched their fists, and some people's legs were trembling. Just as these four soft and tenacious words were sung, without waiting for others to breathe a sigh of relief, Wang Wan sang again. "The higher the sky, the smaller the heart. Don't ask how much karma. Alone, drunk. Today cry, tomorrow laugh. Don't ask for anyone to understand. Proud, singing, dancing, long night, finding happiness." Interlude. The people who were listening to the song were stunned. This song was not only soft and tenacious, but also had a strong sense of rhythm. The dance was the same. Every rotation, every flutter, every pause, every stretch of the body, they all matched the song perfectly. It was originally a song sung by a woman, but for some reason, the people who listened to it felt a lot of emotions in their hearts. There was the realization of life, the pursuit of life, the coldness of the long night, and the noise and prosperity in their eyes at this moment. It was like nostalgia, reluctance, tenderness, and determination. No matter what, they could not imagine how a song could contain so many emotions. Good, good, good. Cheers rang out, causing the surrounding air to vibrate incessantly. Some people even jumped and jumped, trying to find a way to vent the emotions in their hearts. When the song reached the climax again, Wang Wan suddenly lifted the veil on her face and flung it out. revealing her beautiful face with cherry lips and a jade nose. She continued to sing, "The wind is cold." Those who were not far away were all stunned when they saw the face behind the veil. Then they went crazy and shouted in a mess. "Cuckoo, it's Cuckoo. She's singing Cuckoo. Cuckoo is singing up there." When they shouted, those who were far away also looked carefully and wanted to squeeze forward. They vaguely saw that others were shouting Cuckoo, so they also thought that it was Cuckoo. Because there were people and stools in front of them, they could not squeeze forward, so they shouted along. Those who had good memories even sang along. After the song ended, Wang Wan's figure disappeared from the stage. The people who were watching the performance shouted and clapped crazily again. They felt that if they did not see it with their own eyes, they would not believe that the person who sang for them was Cuckoo. What kind of joke was this? How could Cuckoo go up to sing, and sing so well? If she was not crazy, then the world was crazy. Everyone was excited and happy, but at the same time, they were shocked. Cuckoo could sing so well. Who said that she only knew how to fight? All right, thank you for your applause. Xiao Hongchen's song was indeed very good. Of course, it was mainly because the singer sang it well. I did not introduce it before the song, but I believe that I do not need to introduce it after the song. Everyone should already know. That's right, the singer of Xiao Hongchen's song is my goddess Cuckoo. Then just like the song just now, the song is singing, the dance is dancing, the night is long and unknowingly, the search for happiness. Cuckoo sang the first song, so that we can continue to enjoy the performance tonight. The next song is a solo on the horse head zither. Please let us. All right, you can come up by yourself. I will not introduce you. The host returned to the stage at the right time and said to the audience. He did not introduce the person who played the horse head zither because there was no need. This person was also from the intelligence department and was disguised. In the future, he would not perform for no reason unless it was necessary. This person did not have any accompaniment, only a horse head zither, the most pure music. He took the microphone, adjusted it, and lowered his head to speak. Actually, I am very unwilling to be the second to come up. This would be a very sad thing for me. When Cuckoo finished singing, your hearts had already flown away with her. I discussed it with the two brats behind me. I said that you should switch with me. After all, you are performing a language show, which is different from the previous song. Perhaps you can win back some of the audience's hearts. For this reason, I was even willing to treat them to a big meal, such as hot pot. However, I was mercilessly rejected by them. I found that they are very smart as I am. This is because it is impossible to eat hot pot outside in the inner courtyard, and eating at home is free. Ha ha ha! There was another burst of laughter. Some people were quick-witted and immediately understood that the person who played the horsehead zither was also very capable. If he did not say a few words to amuse the audience and just started playing the zither, it would really be like what he said. No one was listening attentively. Everyone was thinking about Cuckoo's Xiao Hongchen. Why don't I stop playing the zither? I will perform a stand-up comedy for everyone. When everyone is done laughing, I will see what those two behind me will do. There was another burst of laughter in the audience. Although he said that, he still had to perform the horse head zither. After testing the notes, he began to play. His level was also very high. The audience sat back down and listened attentively, enjoying the moment of joy. This is really fun. While Xiao Bei was waiting for her brother to make something to eat, she looked at the person on the stage and said, "Is he a professional performer?" "No, he's from the intelligence team." Zhang Xiaobao whispered to his sister. His hands did not stop moving. He was currently peeling the shell of the prawn rake. He used a small knife to cut along the edges, opened the shell, and took out the meat inside. He placed it on a deep plate. After placing a dozen or so prawns, he scooped up the hot soup from the malatang utensil and poured it over the meat. After pouring it over the meat, he poured the soup away from the plate and poured it over again. After doing this a few times, the meat would be cooked. Xiao Bei waited patiently. She sniffed and smelled the soup. She nodded and said, "The people in our intelligence department are indeed very good." Especially after the incident in Jiangnan society, they usually train harder. I have to train harder in the future and show my professionalism. Isn't that right, brother? No need. If you're tired, just rest. You're still young. You have time to learn slowly. Zhang Xiaobao was afraid that if he said the right thing, his sister would compete with diplomacy all day from tonight onwards. In the end, she would confuse him. While they were talking, the prawn rake meat was cooked. Zhang Xiaobao specially prepared a small dish of sesame paste, sesame oil, soy sauce, and oyster sauce. Whoever wanted to eat could dip it in. Come and eat. Xiao Bei called the 8 people watching the performance. She first used a stick as a pair of chopsticks to pick up a piece of meat. She shook it in the sauce and carefully brought it to her mouth. She opened her mouth and bit into it. She nodded as she ate, making vague sounds saying that it was delicious. The other 8 kids came over and surrounded the plate to eat. After eating a piece of meat, Xiao Bei asked, "Brother, when are you going to sing your song? I'm sure you'll be able to control the audience." "I don't know. It depends on the situation. Anytime." "What's the matter?" Zhang Xiaobao was talking to his sister when an intelligence agent came over from the side. He signaled to Zhang Xiaobao with his eyes that he had something to say. The intelligence agent looked around warily. When he saw that there were no outsiders, he lowered his voice and said, "The duo man that Shui Yun led the team to capture has confessed. He said that the mission of the 231 people here is to capture the Tang people. It's best if they're real Tang people with status, such as officials and merchants." However, they didn't expect the Tang people to act so quickly. They captured them before they could do anything. He said that there are 3 groups of people. One group is them, and the other group is the people at the border who are hired to carry the logs. What about the last group? Zhang Xiaobao knew that the 3rd group was the most important. He had his eyes on the group at the border. He believed that good news would come soon. The last group has more people and many ships. They're traveling by sea and bypassing Luzhou's armed ships and the lighthouse. They're heading to Hangzhou to capture people. They said that there are more people with status in Hangzhou compared to other coastal areas. It's safer there, the intelligence agent said. Zhang Xiaobao thought about it for a moment before he shook his head. "Tell Cuckoo to come back quickly. Don't stay there and chat with the others. Prepare the horses. I'll ask Cuckoo personally." When Wang Wan returned and looked at Zhang Xiaobao in confusion, Zhang Xiaobao said to her, "We're not the only ones who know how to land and fight. Their target is Hangzhou. They're quite smart." Wang Wan blinked and scoffed. "I'm worried that they'll die at sea when they go around the lighthouse and our armed ships. Let's go back and ask them." Chapter 1246. 1,000 years? Thank you, brothers and sisters, for your support. Time is redundant, riding the long river road. You are not abandoned. The heart is touched. But with 1,000 days of memories, the eyes are full of fog. For what reason? Acquaintances are often accompanied by deep feelings. Spring comes, the swallow searches for its home. The pen moves, no words of bitterness. The country speaks of the great Tang, still flying egrets. Do you remember? The sun warms the grain soil. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan left on horseback. Whether or not they could come back at night to sing Ocean's Laughter would depend on the results of the interrogation. Without his brother to help him get the meat from the prawn rake, Xiao Bei did not let the others busy and changed to eat other things. If there were not so many people around, and he was afraid that the smoke from the barbecue would suffocate others, Xiao Bei would have asked someone to bring a barbecue rack, and then cut the beef into large pieces and barbecue it. He ate to his heart's content, and 2 skewers were enough to fill him up. In the future, we will also arrange for performances. If there is a chance, we will go up and perform. Xiao Bei said to Xiao Yuan, who was scalding mushrooms. Xiao Yuan nodded indifferently. Okay, you can do whatever you want. With you around, we won't have to worry about being idle. Being busy can make people feel fulfilled. Give me a skewer too. I want the reticulated mushroom one. Don't put it among the spicy ones. I want to try it. Xiao Bei held a big prawn in his hand and glanced at Xiao Yuan. After he finished speaking, he continued to watch the performance on the stage. I feel that you are not fulfilling enough now. You let me do it, and you watch the performance. Appreciating art itself is a kind of fulfillment. Look, the skit about selling fake goods is so good. Don't watch it. Listen and look at the mushrooms. Xiao Bei continued eating. Xiao Bei, why did you sell us fake goods? Xiao Bei had just finished speaking when a young girl's voice came from beside him. The children turned their heads to look and saw a little girl about their age standing there, accompanied by a woman with an embarrassed expression. Xiao Bei went to check on the guards first. Seeing that the guards did not respond, he knew that the two of them could come in, so they were not a threat to him. Only then did he recall the young girl's words and asked in confusion, "Fake goods? Where are they from?" "They are from Baby Candy House." "Look, are they broken?" The little girl stretched out her hand and revealed a small toy car in her palm. It was very small, and the little girl had no problem placing 4 of them side by side. Xiao Bei reached out and took it. He placed it in front of his eyes and carefully examined it. The small car was made of wood and had 4 smaller wheels that could be turned. The bottom of the car was engraved with 2 cartoon characters that read Baby. The front of the car was split open. It's true. Baby, the candy house, and candy came with a toy car. Look, there's a word on the bottom. Baby. Xiao Bei proved to the little girl. Then why is the front of the car cracked? The little girl didn't care about Xiao Bei's identity for the sake of the toy. Xiao Bei was at a loss and frowned. How would I know? There are various ways to break the wooden cart, such as dropping it, smashing it with a hammer, or jumping up and stepping on it. No, it's just a normal wheel. When I let go, it's my younger brother's car. As I was playing with it, I suddenly pushed it forward and let go. It hit the wall and broke. The quality is not good. Isn't it a fake? The little girl made a gesture of playing with a small car. Xiao Bei widened his eyes for a while and blinked twice. How can this be played with? A small car is something that looks good. You can hold it in your hand and put it on the ground to let it run. Of course, it will break when it hits the wall. The small car is a gift. When you buy cakes and candy, you don't give them. Only children on their birthdays will give them things. The small car should be a set of 4. If one is broken, there are still 3 good ones. Speaking of cakes, Xiao Bei sighed again. There were no cakes to sell now. He had to wait for his brother and sister to say that there was still a lot of food in the house before he could sell the cakes again. What he lost was all money. The little girl was at a loss for words. The gift was free. It seemed to be a very unreasonable thing to find someone to reason with if a free gift was broken. Look, I told you not to come, but you insisted. It's just a wooden thing. Later, I'll ask your third uncle to make a few more for you. Your third uncle is the best at carpentry. The woman who led the little girl over smiled at Xiao Bei and the others embarrassedly and reprimanded her daughter. No. The little girl was obviously unhappy. What does a carpenter's small car have to do with a baby candy house? Uncle, do you dare to carve the same word baby on the bottom? The woman shook her head. No one dared to imitate it like that. The little girl looked worried. She looked at Xiao Bei and asked unwillingly, "The gift didn't say that you can't play with it like that. Think about it. Who doesn't want to send the car far away when they play with it? Right? It's good to put some lead in front. My brother is young. If you let him play with it, he will want the car to run far away. Lead won't do." Xiao Bei was also worried. He shook the wooden car and said, "If it's lead, children will be poisoned when they put it in their mouths." You're right. The gift must also reflect the quality of the baby candy house. The more you give, the better it has to be. In the future, there will be a ring of rubber around the car. There's no need to be afraid of collision. If it breaks, it means that the force is too strong. I don't have a small car with me. Tomorrow, you have time to go to the baby candy house in the city. Take the broken car and ask them to replace it for you. Let your brother make do with it first. When the car with the rubber ring is out, The baby candy house will publish a message on the newspaper and put it on the second page. When you see it, you can take your car to change it, okay? After that, Xiao Bei added, but we won't take care of your travel expenses. Unless it's a big item, the kind that requires a carriage and animals to pull it. The little girl was very surprised. She didn't expect such a small thing to be published in the newspaper. She immediately regretted coming and whispered, "There's no need. There's no need to spend so much effort on a gift. You're not the only one with a car. There are others. Our family represents the highest quality of the Tang Empire. If we don't do it, we'll lose more than just the cost. We're standing here. All the merchants of the Tang Empire have to look up to us. We'll deal with whoever dares to cheat and cut corners." Xiao Bei explained his purpose to the little girl. Seeing the little girl's puzzled expression, he shook his head and gave up the idea of explaining to her. He said, "Since you're here, let's eat together. We can't finish it anyway." "My Yu doesn't eat. She hates the smell." The woman said she doesn't even touch fish at home. "Are you allergic?" Xiao Bei was concerned. The little girl and the woman shook their heads. "Then I know. Do you want to eat bean products?" Xiao Bei asked again. "Yes, I want to eat dried tofu." The little girl stuck out her tongue and licked her lips. She was probably attracted by the smell of the malatang. Xiao Bei immediately arranged for people to make some dried tofu skewers and invited the little girl to eat together. As for the woman, she had just eaten a box meal and couldn't squeeze with the children. Only the 9 little guys were eating here. The dried tofu was cooked very quickly. It could be eaten after a few dips in the soup. After introducing the chili oil to the little girl, the 9 little guys began to watch the little girl eat. They also looked at each other. The little girl happily ate 2 skewers. Suddenly, she looked up and saw that she was surrounded. Her face immediately turned red and she whispered, "It's delicious. You guys eat." The 9 little guys tacitly turned around to get the seafood. Xiao Bei also took the mushrooms. He didn't eat them and put them on the little girl's plate. There were 5 mushrooms on a skewer. The little girl ate one, and her eyebrows almost flew up. She nodded vigorously and made a whining sound. It seemed that she found it delicious. Xiao Bei ate a mouthful of squid and looked at the little girl. "Let me tell you a story." "Okay." The little girl was very happy. She slowed down her eating speed and stared at Xiao Bei, waiting for him to tell the story. There was a child who was 8 years old this year. He lived by the sea. The sea was blue and couldn't see the end of it. In the distance, it seemed to be connected to the sky. There were white seagulls flying. As for this child, he had 2 rabbits and already had 6 baby rabbits. He had to drink milk before they could grow. One day, the child came home from school and found that the big rabbits were gone. If the big rabbits were gone, the little rabbits would starve to death. The child was anxious and looked for them. He went to the yard and couldn't find them. He went to the barn and still couldn't find them. Where did the rabbits go? Xiao Bei stopped talking and tilted his head as if he was thinking about something. The little girl stopped eating and also thought about it. Her eyes were full of expectation. The child thought, did the rabbits go to the beach? So, he ran toward the beach. When he reached the beach, he suddenly became happy. The rabbits were really there. They were playing with the little crabs on the beach. So, the child ran over to take a look and played with them. When he found that it was late, he wanted to bring the rabbits home to feed the baby rabbits, right? Xiao Bei paused and told the story like a stream of water to fool the little girl. The other party didn't care. The little girl nodded. But suddenly, a sea monster with long fangs rushed out of the sea towards the rabbits and the child. It wanted to eat them. The child was weak and couldn't beat the sea monster. He was very anxious. What should he do? What should he do? Was he going to be eaten? Xiao Bei shook his head anxiously. He frowned and opened his mouth. The little girl clenched her fists and looked very engrossed. At this critical and dangerous moment, the child thought of what the adults said. They said that eating seafood, fish, prawns, and other things in the water could make people smarter and stronger. The little crabs seemed to know about this too. They had already helped the child drag a squid out of the sea. It's the squid I'm eating now. It's called the squid mouth, where the squid mouth is. Xiao Bei stopped and ate a squid mouth. He gestured to Yu Yu. The child immediately dragged the little crabs over and hesitated to take a bite. It happened to bite the squid mouth. He chewed and swallowed it. Then, he realized that he had become smarter and stronger. The sea monster that rushed over didn't have legs. In an instant, the child thought of a solution. With the help of the rabbits and the little crabs, he dug a big hole on the beach. When the sea monster rushed up, they hid, and the sea monster fell into the hole. The sea monster didn't have legs. It wanted to come up, but couldn't. The child then filled the hole with sand, and the sea monster died below. When he returned home, the child liked to eat seafood and fish in the water very much. He became smarter, and his body became better and better. Many children asked why, but the child didn't tell others. He wanted to become powerful by himself. Most importantly, the child realized that seafood and fish were very delicious. After Xiao Bei finished, he let out a long breath. He was tired. The little girl you also let out a long breath. She was scared. Eat. You eat your dried tofu and mushrooms. I'll eat my squid mouth. It's delicious. It's better than eating soft candy. Xiao Bei ate 2 squid mouths at once and smacked his lips hard. Yu Yu's mouth moved as well. She asked hesitantly, Isn't it fishy? If you think about fishy, then everything is fishy. If you think about freshness, seafood and fish are very fresh. If you don't believe me, try it. Xiao Yuan, bring a skewer of squid mouth over. Xiao Bei instructed Xiao Yuan. When Xiao Yuan brought a skewer of squid mouth soup to the little girl's plate, Yu Yu carefully picked it up and bit off a squid mouth. She chewed hard. After a while, she ate it and felt that it was very amazing. She said, It's really delicious. It's not fishy at all. Then, she ate 2 in a row. She turned to her mother and said, Mother, I want to eat fish in the future. I'll become very smart and powerful. You can also become beautiful, Xiao Bei added. He forgot to mention it just now. Okay. Mother will make fish for Yu Yu to eat in the future. The woman wiped her tears and said to her daughter. At this moment, she really understood how amazing Xiao Bei and the others were. They were children of the same age, but they could tell stories to their children to make them like eating fish. Who would have thought of such a good idea? The little girl, you didn't think about the profound meaning behind it. She ate the dried tofu and mushrooms on her plate as fast as she could. Then she focused on the seafood. She stuffed abalone, squid, and sea cucumber into her mouth until she was full. The woman took Yu Yu, who was rubbing her stomach, and said goodbye to Xiao Bei and the others. Xiao Bei wiped the sweat on his forehead. Aya, I'm so tired. Is it difficult to educate a child? Why did you have to pull her in front of me to tell stories? Xiao Yuan also wiped his sweat. There are many children in Tang Dynasty who are like Yu Yu. They don't like to eat this and that. We can't tell everyone the story once. We need more people to work hard. Yes. Xiao Bei nodded helplessly. The person who had been serving them saw that the little ones were in a dilemma. He thought for a while, and when he passed the sesame oil to Xiao Bei, he said, I don't know if young master Xiao Bao can come back in time to perform. He's really busy with too many things. Sometimes he has to do it himself, and sometimes he has to guide the people through the newspapers. Many things that the people don't understand can only be understood by reading the newspapers. Fortunately, there are newspapers and the price is cheap. He almost doesn't need to pay for it himself. In the end, when the newspapers are sold, the money from the newspaper subscriptions will come back to him. The cost will be borne by the merchants who advertise. After he finished speaking, he turned around and sat back down, waiting for the little one's instructions. The eyes of the 9 little ones lit up. They looked at each other and were very excited. That's right. Brother can use the newspaper to tell the people things. So can we. We publish our own newspaper in the Precious Candy House. It's specially for the children to read. We tell stories in it. Those who don't like to eat vegetables have special stories. Those who don't like to eat fatty meat also have special stories. We give it to the children for free. The cost of printing and editing will be borne by the merchants who are involved with the children. We will advertise for them. If they are capable enough, they can monopolize the plot of a certain story in Tang Dynasty. We can even name the food in the story after the name of their product to help promote their sales. For example, there are 100,000 children in Tang Dynasty who don't like to eat fish. After advertising, they like fish. Then, the number of fish sold will be additional to the number they sold before, right? Let's do it this way. Xiao Bei waved his fist, looking like he was going to do something big. The other 8 children also showed their support with their expressions. After confirming the matter, they were suddenly stunned. At the same time, they turned to look at the inner courtyard that had just passed the sesame oil to Xiao Bei. Xiao Yuan took a deep breath and said, "My family's inner courtyard is 1 in a million." I thought that Xiao Bei's calmness when telling the children stories to let Yu eat fish was very impressive. However, the people around us are silent. The inner courtyard just now smiled modestly and didn't say anything. Su Yilong, who had been following Xiao Bei and the rest, was stunned at the back. At this moment, he felt that he had seen too many incredible things and learned too much. He understood too much about the deep foundation of the Zhang family and Wang family. There were too many things, asterisk, 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 Zhang Xiaobao, and Wang Wan didn't know what their younger brothers and sisters did after they left. After rushing for a while, the two of them came to the place where the polycannibals were locked up. After another round of interrogation, the result was the same as before. There were 231 polycannibals. It was impossible to maintain unity and not confess. As long as they pried open one person's mouth, the others would definitely not be able to hold on. Don't let them die. Give some simple treatment to those who were executed before. With more than 230 people, we can build a long section of railway. Before Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan left the interrogation place, they asked about the polycannibals. Wang Wan wasn't interested in this. Instead, she said with relief, "It's fine as long as there are no other schemes. If we really send people to patrol the coast, they can come around and smoothly. We can directly send people to wait at a place where they can go ashore in Hangzhou. If the ship is damaged at sea, it will be dangerous for them to find a place to dock. I'm afraid that they will either die at sea or dock at Xinyuan Island, which is Luzon Island. They will compete with the local aborigines for resources. In the end, they will either turn the locals into believers, or they will become locals." Zhang Xiaobao said as if he was telling a joke. He didn't think that the polycannibals would take such measures to deal with the war. At the same time, he found that he and Cuckoo had a weakness. They cared too much about the safety and happiness of the Tang people. But they couldn't change it. The imperial court cared about the people, so the people supported the country. If the people were disappointed again and again, even if they didn't dare to rebel because of the military suppression, as long as there were other factors that made the country unstable, the people would be happy to add fuel to the fire and make things worse. Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao knew the weakness, but they couldn't change it. Looking to the west, she said, "Send more people to patrol the land. The border is too long." The long border on land was more difficult than on the sea. Fortunately, they could see very far on the sea. On the land, there were forests and valleys. Who knew where the enemy would come from? "Why don't we occupy the entire Eurasian continent? The land will be safe," Zhang Xiaobao suggested. "What about the sea? You can just say to occupy the whole world. Then we can fight against the alien enemies together." Wang Wan rolled her eyes at Zhang Xiaobao. "That's fine. At that time, it will be the global village. The people of various places on Earth will be distributed according to their needs. Our Tang Empire will be in charge of researching the advanced technology, and other places will be in charge of processing and providing the raw materials. They don't need to research. If they do, it will be called a waste of resources. Zhang Xiaobao followed along, not blushing at all. Do you think others are stupid? Do you think there are few stupid people? Many of the elites in China think so. There are even some in the ruling class. Do you think we should help build railways in other countries? Wang Wan interrupted Zhang Xiaobao and asked. Use it. It's like when Japan invaded China. If we don't build railways, we can't transport things, and it's not easy to mobilize troops. In that case, we should build factories for them. That's fine. Many polluting enterprises will be built. Look at our Tang Empire. The pollution is very serious now. In order to speed up the progress, small factories are built. In the future, we will have to heal this scar. Fortunately, we have moved away the people around the factories. Looking at the colorful smoke coming out of the factories because of the technical limitations, it would be a lie to say that I don't feel bad. Zhang Xiaobao sounded like he was in a difficult position. Wang Wan was also troubled for a while, but she immediately stopped thinking about the pollution. Although the pollution caused by the creation of constant profits now required 5 or even 10 strings of coins to be reformed in the future, the accounts were not calculated like that. Now that constant profits were generated, this constant money brought about the improvement of technology. Moreover, when the time came for the Reformation, it would have already generated hundreds or thousands of strings of coins. The main problem was whether a small portion of the profits would be used for the Reformation. If the money used for the Reformation was not used for the Reformation, but to create more profits, that would be troublesome. According to the greed of human nature, there was a 99% chance that they would do so, unless it was not only the lives of others that were threatened, but also his own life. Then he would be willing to reform the pollution. Let's go. We'll go back and sleep for a while first, then we'll go to the performance. I wonder if the smart and bold people of Tang Empire have made preparations for the small cluster of agriculture and handicrafts. After saying that, Zhang Xiaobao walked to the bedroom first. I guarantee it. There will definitely be news in 2 days. Wang Wan followed. Chapter 1247. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan rested, saying that they would wake up later to participate in the performance, but in the end, they slept until dawn the next day. Zhang Xiaobao did not sing a laugh in the sea. When he got up, he stretched comfortably, saying that good songs should not be played all at once, but one by one. Wang Wan was also very tired. For the past few days, she and Zhang Xiaobao had been giving everyone the feeling that they were at ease, as if they did not care about the war. Only they knew that what they were most afraid of was that when the artillery was fired, a message would come from somewhere saying that they had been schemed against by the enemy. For example, when crossing a snowy mountain, there would be people shouting in groups, which would cause an avalanche or something. For example, when marching on the green and yellow grassland, they would suddenly find that the surroundings were on fire. For example, when the artillery passed by a certain area, countless fireworks buried by someone suddenly exploded. In any case, there were many methods in asymmetrical warfare, and they were usually very useful. Although they could not achieve a strategic victory, it was not a problem to reap the lives of some people. The two of them believed that if they were the ones commanding the multi-eater, they would definitely be able to trap the Tang army there after paying a certain price of lives, and keep losing people. Since the method was thought of by people who could guarantee that there was not a particularly smart and lucky person among the multi-eater. When the time came, they would eat 500 Tang soldiers first, and then the Tang would basically lose 500 family members. War is really too cruel. At the cost of people's lives, they get a little bit of resources that are not equal to their lives. I really hope that the world is peaceful and there is no war. Zhang Xiaobao said to Wang Wan when he helped her to write the general tactical arrangements she had made for various places. Wang Wan did not say anything. She was still calculating the distance on the map and looking through the local climate, geographical environment, and other information collected. Zhang Xiaobao did not expect Wang Wan to cooperate with him, so he continued. But if there is no war, then the premise is that people must lose the mind to compare with each other. A peaceful wolf pack would never be able to survive. Without competition, humans would also not be able to develop. Humans, through the struggle, became the overlords of the world. Then, humans discovered that the world was only a small part of it. Outside the atmosphere were countless stars and unknown things. One day, the ultimate killer from beyond the heavens would descend upon Earth. Thus, humans continued to develop through the struggle. Wang Wan still didn't say anything. Instead, she handed 2 pieces of paper containing the information to Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao looked at it and cursed. "Damn, you're so smart." After thinking for a while, he said, "All right, I take back what I just said on behalf of humanity. It has nothing to do with world peace. The tree wants to be still, but the wind won't stop. Just like what we had in the beginning, we just wanted to make our family more comfortable. Tell me, is it wrong to increase production in the fields? Was it wrong to open a shop to make money? What's wrong with getting some winter cucumbers? You're not wrong. You're wrong because you have it, but others don't. We can only think of ways to protect our own interests. In the end, we protect and protect and protect until we become like this. Who can we blame? All right, don't make it sound so dignified. Do you think I don't know you?" Wang Wan finally couldn't help but speak. Zhang Xiaobao smiled shyly. Haha, thank you. It's enough to have a confidant in life. Look, it says that the cannibals actually developed our fireworks and gunpowder and started to mass produce them. There have been several explosions in the workshops. I don't object to them making fireworks. It's just entertainment. But why do they put a large amount of fireworks and gunpowder in the stones with holes? Do they lack the paper to make fireworks? It's obvious that from the moment Tang Empire started to have all kinds of good things, those people from other countries have been jealous. If we give away our technology for free, we might be able to achieve a period of peace. Then, we will continue to research and give them technology. Otherwise, they will think about us. When they don't have technology, they will want to steal technology. Now that they have some technology, they will want to use this technology to steal more technology. Peace is never something that can be bought by giving in. Hubby, what are you trying to say? Wang Wan raised her head and asked. She really couldn't understand. What was Zhang Xiaobao's purpose for saying so much at this time? Could it be that he regretted attacking others and was afraid that he couldn't persevere, so he found an excuse for himself? What excuse did you need to fight a war? Comfort yourself? There was no need. They just wanted to bully you. They just wanted to rob you. They weren't willing to be enslaved. If you resisted, they would beat you. It was the same principle as lions eating deer and horses. Thinking of this, Wang Wan suddenly became worried. She was afraid that Zhang Xiaobao would start to waver in his determination to fight. If he did invade others and gave up halfway, the cannibals would definitely not be grateful. Instead, they would strengthen their military and continue to look for opportunities to attack. Zhang Xiaobao showed a compassionate expression and said to Wang Wan, "What I want to say is that most of the people we are fighting now are the main force in front of the cannibals. The real main force. They are almost all the old soldiers that we used to fight against the enemy when we were training. They are very cunning. Once we fight, they know how to disperse and then regroup. They always stay in places that make our army uncomfortable. Why don't we send the captured cannibals back and tell them that we won't fight anymore and that there is peace? However, our army can appear in certain areas, and they can't appear in certain areas either. After setting the area, we can roughly determine where they are gathering. We will send the hot air balloon troops over and take advantage of a windless night to quietly surround them. At daybreak, the ground troops will launch a general attack and kill their veterans." Wang Wan stared at Zhang Xiaobao and suddenly smiled. She said, "Very good. You are still the Xiaobao I know. If one day you become kind, I will be scared to death." "Thank you." Zhang Xiaobao was very happy that his idea was accepted. 5 days later, the war was still going on. Shui Yun's family flew back and forth and finally delivered all the salt tickets and some small things to their destination. They returned to the restaurant to have a big meal and rest. Seeing that Shui Yun's family had obviously lost some weight, Xiao Bei and the others felt distressed. They specially had people kill 2 lambs that were specially used to roast whole lambs and fed them to the family. When the telegram was sent to the capital, Li Longji specially made Shui Yun's family a high-ranking official and promoted him to the 4th rank. This was because Shui Yun, who was getting smarter, could be used as a strategic weapon. For example, he could take a bomb and drop it on the enemy's headquarters. Not only could he do it, but he had done it before. On the way back, he took a detour and blew up the headquarters of a 4,000-man camp. The telegram was sent back first, saying that they could increase the intensity of the attack and give Shui Yun credit for the loss of command. When Li Longji heard the news, he praised Shui Yun fiercely in the court, saying that he could take the head of the enemy's general as easily as taking something out of his pocket. He could complete a fixed-point kill from thousands of miles away. The court officials didn't believe that Shui Yun could target someone and kill them. At most, he would blow up the enemy's biggest tent. However, as officials of the same court, they couldn't say anything bad about Shui Yun. After all, he was just an animal. If they argued with an animal, they should be careful that the person who raised the animal would argue with them later. Why haven't I heard of this before? If Shui Yun can fly steadily, and we can harden our hearts, find a child who knows how to shoot and fly over with a gun, we can kill a lot of people. The deterrent effect is very strong. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan deliberately went to see Shui Yun's family. When they returned to the house, they sighed. Why not? We've always had them. We train eagles, dogs, elephants, dolphins, and other animals to help humans hunt and fight. What's so strange about that? Shui Yun is just a little smarter, and the chances of him getting albinism are lower than his. What our great Tang owes him is nothing more than some meat and cotton, but we've gained a lot from him. If you treat him better, he'll be dead set on you. He's stronger than others. Wang Wan recalled something and said with a slightly sad tone. Zhang Xiaobao also thought of that matter and sighed. Sigh. Life is like this. You should think from another perspective. If human nature isn't complicated, wouldn't it be too boring to live as a member of society? When did I say that human nature isn't allowed to be complicated? I'm saying that what he did was really infuriating. If he can't be evaluated as a craftsman, then he should go to a free training place to learn. During the training, the imperial court gave him some living expenses, enough to eat. His 2 children don't need to be raised by him. The imperial court pays for their meals, clothes, and accommodation. We're no different from Germany now. He actually injured his wife, kidnapped his 2 children, and extorted them from the local government. He wants a job with high wages, power, and freedom. What a fool's dream. Wang Wan talked about this matter. In fact, it was a person who found his own career after Zhang Xiaobao issued the 12 national policies. But the reality was that there was no such thing as a career, only a salary. If he went to the local government, the government would arrange work for him. If he didn't know how to do it, he would train him first. But this person felt that it was too tiring to do that. First, he wanted people to give him money for free, saying that the national welfare was so good that it didn't make a difference. Then, seeing that the government didn't agree, he kidnapped his children. He didn't care about his children, but the government did. Hence, while they were negotiating, they sent a sniper and shot him down. He never got up again. The 2 children lost their father because of this. This was a grain of sand washed by the tide of social development, but it was very touching. Was it right or wrong to increase the welfare of the country? There was an intense debate in the imperial court. Some people felt that the 12 national policies were artificially widening the gap between the rich and poor, intensifying the competition and comparison between the villagers in small areas. That was why such a thing happened. In the long run, the country would no longer be a country. Some officials felt that this matter existed alone. They would first observe, and if it happened a few more times, they would adjust the national policies. There were also people who criticized Zhang Xiaobao's strategy for not doing the right thing. After creating chaos in Great Tang, he didn't immediately fix it and instead ignored it and treated it coldly. Li Longji was annoyed by the noise and sent a telegram to Zhang Xiaobao, asking him what he should do. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan felt depressed. Who was the one who was so free to magnify a small problem? Wouldn't such a thing happen if the country didn't develop? That's right. According to historical records, there were very few people who were sentenced to death in Great Tang every year. Moreover, it was said that Li Longji would personally ask the other party if they felt that their death was unjust. However, that wasn't the case. Historical records stated that many punishments didn't go through the government and were directly dealt with by the local clans. Furthermore, this was also a period of land annexation. So how could the gap between the rich and poor be small? The officials were all bored and felt that the government was running smoothly. That's why they targeted us. Did they see how far we were from the capital? They were waiting for us to return. Zhang Xiaobao said mockingly, I feel that it's also your fault. Who asked you to take out the 12 national policies? At the very least, that person was executed because of your influence. What about your follow-up actions? Wang Wan argued. Wait, let's wait for another 2 days. I don't believe that the people of Great Tang will die in just a few days, Zhang Xiaobao said gloomily. Chapter 1248. Seeing Zhang Xiaobao's sullen look, Wang Wan couldn't help but laugh. Hubby, okay. Others don't understand you, but I do. You're a good person who loves this nation the most in the world. You have the talent to cheat others, but you never do anything to your own people. You could have obtained more money, but after you stabilized the Tang Empire's financial situation, you let go and nurtured other businessmen. You were originally an unruly person, but when faced with the accusations of the Tang people, you chose to endure. You had countless reasons and excuses to explain clearly, but you still chose to remain silent. Some people may think that you're weak, but in my eyes, you're a real man. Whether you're weak or not, ask the original Tubo people. Ask the Turks, ask the Xinluo people, ask the Japanese people, ask the north of Hebei province, which is the 3 northeastern provinces, and they will give a fair answer. In fact, Wang Wan was not worried that Zhang Xiaobao would lose confidence and stop using his abilities for the Tang Empire. Because she believed that as long as Zhang Xiaobao saw the children of the Tang Empire, he would definitely be firm in his confidence. That Grandpa Dean had already gone deep into his soul. Speaking of which, whether it was China in the past or the current Tang Empire, they should all thank such an ordinary and great old man. He used his life to write a legend that followed the trajectory of the track. Zhang Xiaobao suddenly hugged Wang Wan and kissed her. As if he had taken advantage of her, he said, You should support me. You're my wife. If you don't support me, who will you support? Yes, you're my God. God, how did I meet you? Wang Wan replied with a smile. Same, you're also my God. It's so mushy. Don't pinch me. I hate women pinching men, especially on the ribs. I can't use any strength. Look, I'll analyze it for you. Zhang Xiaobao grabbed Wang Wan's hand and said, Oh, there's a talk? Wang Wan asked cooperatively. It's an analysis. Look, yes, I admit that the 12 national policies I took out will cause social unrest, but that's because society is already on the brink of unrest. Ever since we started suggesting that the imperial court help raise children and take care of pregnant women, that sum of money was the source of unrest. Do you agree that the welfare of society can never exceed the minimum average income of society? Otherwise, there would be a deficit, and it would not be a deficit in the development process. A deficit in development could bring about future profits, and a deficit in welfare would not only increase consumption, but also disguised inflation. So why do I insist on giving a lot of benefits to pregnant babies? One reason was that I needed a large number of people, and the other reason was that the Agrarian Technology Research Department already had technology that could be applied in daily life. This is the so-called civilian technology. Actually, I have always put civilian and military together. I'm not afraid of others stealing from the people of Great Tang. of the surrounding countries, other than Japan, I'm concerned about their intelligence. Even if I give them technology, they won't be able to learn it. They're all too stupid. Of course, Russia is still possible. But is there a Russia now? Our people in Hebei province have been moving there for construction and exploration. I won't give them a chance to establish a country, right? Zhang Xiaobao said a lot, not only for Wang Wan, but also for himself. He was very strong in front of outsiders, but when facing Wang Wan, he showed his weak side. This was a kind of trust for his partner, a kind of dependence. Therefore, when many officials had too many people to rely on, they were reported by others. The officials, who were strong and calculative in front of the public, also needed a harbor for their souls. If they had too many harbors, they would not be able to take care of them when distributing resources. Therefore, internal wars became the source of division. Wang Wan also needed a harbor. In this world, she was no different from Zhang Xiaobao. She couldn't find a partner by relying on local materials. Otherwise, she would always be lonely in her heart. Of course, Wang Wan said to Zhang Xiaobao more than once that if the child lying next to her was the person who held the child hostage, she would find a way to kill him. She would rather be lonely than compromise with that kind of person. Whether it was the gap in social status or personality, she couldn't accept that kind of person. As for Zhang Xiaobao, she felt no problem. No matter where Zhang Xiaobao was, he must have a place. Only with this kind of person could there be common topics and ideals. Therefore, when Zhang Xiaobao said what was in his heart, Wang Wan gently leaned on Zhang Xiaobao and said, "So you asked me to accompany you to walk on the edge of social contradictions and outbreak. You still have the spirit of adventure in your bones. But now you've caused the contradictions. Why don't you do something? What do I count as? Without the influence of other powers facing the current situation, I am far too relaxed. Li Longji has been fooled by us, and the other ministers are just a piece of cake." However, Li Longji didn't lose out. We don't want his throne. We're content with being in charge of the currency, economic planning, and strategic deployment. In fact, they haven't encountered a more difficult time. Yes, first, I centralized production in agriculture and handicrafts. Then, I raised the working conditions of the workers and forced merchants to choose those with high grades when choosing workers. This caused a group of people to lose their jobs. The scariest thing about people losing their jobs isn't that they don't have money, but that they're used to the sudden change in their working environment. Most people are obedient and like to listen to other people's orders. After many years, they'll be at a loss if that person doesn't order them around anymore. My goal is to let them know in advance that they can make their own decisions. Even if others endlessly change, they can still make accurate judgments and live a good life. During this process, I didn't give up, nor did I use shock therapy. I didn't let the unemployed bear the losses of the change. I provided them with employment training institutions. They receive free training and benefits, just like in the United States. That's why that man kidnapped his own child. It's the same problem. His unemployment isn't absolute. It's relative. If he has a job, he doesn't want the low income. At the same time, he doesn't want to bear the pain and tiredness of training. Say our social and educational benefits are the same as Germany's, our employment is the same as America's, our stability is something that Iceland desires but can't achieve, our military strength is something that neutral countries like Austria don't even dare to think about, and our care for our citizens is deeply rooted in Chinese Confucianism. Why do you have to push the blame to us when there's a problem? Based on what? Where did these rules come from? Zhang Xiaobao started slamming the table as he spoke. Wang Wan straightened her back and pushed Zhang Xiaobao with all her strength. She laughed and slammed the table with Zhang Xiaobao. When Zhang Xiaobao saw Wang Wan's expression, he paused and laughed as well. People are F***king insatiable. It's such a good era. Cherish it, F***ck, Zhang Xiaobao muttered again. You're scolding me. Wang Wan was still laughing. No, I'm saying that after we occupy India and many other places to plant grass, we'll turn them into large pastures. We'll transport them to the riverside and seaside through their trains, and then transport them to the Tang Empire. We need to build big ships. It seems that the transportation cost is too high, but as long as the cost of raising is reduced, it can be equal to the domestic cost. It has to be equal, even if it's lower than the domestic cost. Otherwise, it will have a huge impact on the domestic animal husbandry industry. I plan to divert 70% of the people who have a real career and send them to the battlefield in the form of transportation. Zhang Xiaobao finally said his plan to deal with the turmoil caused by the 12 national policy articles. Wang Wan pondered for a moment before saying, "By the time they arrive, the front lines will have already advanced, and they will be at the rear. You want them to contract other people's land and lower taxes, right? It's tax-free, and we'll also provide them with interest-free loans. We have so much money, and Lilongji has so much internal funds. After the agriculture and handicraft industry cluster, we can't possibly keep so much tax revenue in the bank. As long as the military can ensure the safety of their livestock and produce results within 3 years, flourish within 5 years, and 10 years, we don't even need 10 years. Once they have money, they will definitely attract the envy of other people in the country, and they will immediately follow suit. We'll rotate the troops there and continue to expand. This is called stable colonization. I won't foolishly send people to faraway places. When the time comes, we'll let them play the game of independence with the Tang Empire. Empire on which the sun never sets is a dream." Zhang Xiaobao's words were something that even the people of his era wouldn't be able to understand. They also didn't have the time to understand. They were all in different positions, and they were all busy with their lives and dignity. "I feel that you care a lot about 5 years. Why is that?" As an intellectual woman, Wang Wan knew how to cooperate. "You're asking me? You're from a red family, and you're asking me? Fine, I'll explain it to a big-breasted but brainless woman like you. Hubby, you think it's very big. I think I'm very brainless. Let's get down to business. 5 years is the minimum period for the technology to be converted from military to civilian use. 5 years is the average period for the establishment of an enterprise to achieve stable growth and development. 5 years is the adaptation period for the cultivation of crops to be popularized. 5 years is the regular period for the operation of capital to be doubled. 5 years is the inevitable period for the change in the content of educational materials. 5 years is the period from when I was born to when I ate my first bowl of cold jelly. 5 years is the period when I held you in my arms and hoped that you would still be happy after countless 5 years. As Zhang Xiaobao spoke, he reached out and hugged Wang Wan's waist. "You're really the biggest liar in the world. I won't be fooled." Wang Wan leaned her head on Zhang Xiaobao's shoulder again. She remembered what happened at the beginning. Zhang Xiaobao wanted to treat her to cold jelly, but someone threatened the child. In the end, she didn't get to eat the cold jelly. At that moment, she knew that Zhang Xiaobao wasn't with the other party. After coming over, she asked Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao's regret was why he couldn't eat the cold jelly again. Well, she and Xiaobao were both crazy. What they thought before they died was different from others. It definitely couldn't be explained by the word free and easy. "You found out. I'm really a liar. I'll deceive the whole world to bless and cheer for you. If anyone dares to oppose, I'll deceive them to death." Zhang Xiaobao put his other hand around Wang Wan's waist and carried her to the bedroom. "What are you doing in broad daylight? Don't worry. I won't do anything else." "No, I don't trust you. Wang Wan suddenly stopped. She remembered that she seemed to have said this to Zhang Xiaobao before. She said, "No, I don't trust you. My mission is to bring you back. Damn the 5-year rule." It actually reminded her of the past. "I know. Your mission is to bring me back. Then why don't you carry me?" Zhang Xiaobao's EQ, IQ, and psychological foundation exploded at this moment. In fact, when he was talking about the 5-year rule, he had already thought of the past at the last moment. He just didn't expect Wang Wan to be so cooperative. "Fortunately, I came with you. Otherwise, you would have ruined many girls." Wang Wan sighed in her heart. "You've investigated me. What women do you think I had in the past? Who knows? Just like you said, the 160 billion data we got from the investigation is inaccurate. There are always loopholes. Then I'll whisper to you, in private now. No one can hear. No, how can you be like this? Liar and hooligan. Hubby, tell me, when will you release the remedial measures? I'm planning to. Since you're scheming against me, we'll talk about it in the future. Wait, Xiaobao, let me tell you. Who would have thought that the wind and rain of that year would be sad and lonely? Since ancient times, it's difficult for ambitious and ruthless people to stay for long. I've never been a hero, but I've always been quiet at night. The unfinished business of winter and summer in my previous life, I'll share it with you tonight. It's enough to have you in this life. Chapter 1249. Before the enemy had reached the Great Tang, the people of Great Tang felt that the war was both distant and close. Every day, the newspapers would take out a small section to describe the general progress of the war, how far they had advanced, and how many enemies they had killed or captured. Or, the Great Tang had used up too much ammunition and retreated a few li to reduce their supply line. Occasionally, there would be a section describing the environment and resources of the battlefield. After the people read it, some would sigh that there was good stuff in a war zone, some would be troubled as to how to transport the good stuff back to their country, and some would just let it be. In any case, they would have to sell it for money, so they couldn't give it away for free. They could transport it whenever they wanted. The articles in the newspapers didn't mainly describe these things, but how brave the soldiers were and how they overcame the difficulties they faced. Iron and blood intertwined, and it was like an eternal song that lingered in the hearts of the people. While the people felt this from the newspapers, their lives were also affected by the war. Almost every day, they would see a convoy transporting supplies, and when they occasionally met, they would greet each other. The transport teams didn't transport the supplies to the front line in one go, but in different sections. After delivering the goods to the front line, they would see if the other side had anything good from the front line. If they did, they would transport it to the other side for the exchange, or they would send it to a designated place to store it. As long as the people saw the logistics teams of the war, no matter what the situation was, they would definitely make way for them. The people were keenly aware that the Great Tang army hadn't lost many people. While it was a little difficult, life was very precious. This was because of the rules set down by Cuckoo and Xiaobao. Using ammunition to exchange for a life was a price that could be paid for one life. In reality, there had never been a case of using 10 million shells to exchange for one life, but there were still cases where a few or a dozen shells were fired to prevent their own people from taking risks, whose lives weren't lives. The people consciously did their best to make things more convenient for the transport teams. When they saw a heavy carriage crushing the road, they would gather a few people and take the initiative to fix it. As for the number of people who were killed by the cannonballs in the war, the people were very indifferent. It was just like when they heard that someone in a neighboring village had died in childbirth. They would just sigh and forget about it. Their lives would not be changed by the dead pregnant woman, and it was even more so for the people who were killed by the cannonballs. There was not a single anti-war demonstration. Not a single Tang citizen complained that the Tang army was killing too many people. And not a single person accused Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan of being utterly devoid of conscience for taking the initiative to plunder the war. Everyone used their own actions to support the war effort. When they returned home, some offered incense and prayed, hoping that the war would go smoothly and that Xiaobao and Cuckoo would live a long life. The most realistic effect of the war was an increase in the price of goods. The people who pulled the carts found that the price of a jar of butter, which had been introduced 3 years ago, had increased from 6 copper coins to 10 copper coins. The people who bought the kitchen knives and sickles found that the original 5 copper coins worth of kitchen knives had now become 7 copper coins, and it was said that the price was still rising. The price of pottery had also increased. The original 10 copper coins to buy a set of 12 plates had now become 15 copper coins. The price of hemp rope and linen had also increased. The price of pork and chicken had also increased by half. But for some reason, the price of fish had unexpectedly decreased. Moreover, the fish were salted and brought to various places in large batches by the troops transporting the war materials. The price of cotton cloth, silk, fine linen, and silk had fluctuated according to the normal season. The same was true for white flour and millet. The price of Highland barley, which was specially used to feed livestock, had suddenly increased. However, a large amount of white rice had suddenly appeared, and it was said that it was released from the northern part of Hebei province. According to the interesting words that Xiao Bao had taught his younger siblings, others should ask, what's going on? In a war, didn't the price of everything increase, and then the tax increase? Now, why did the price of peace increase and the price of peace decrease? It gave people a messy feeling, especially for salt. The price of sea salt, rock salt, and well salt had not changed at all. It was still the kind of salt that one could buy expensive and cheap if one wanted to buy expensive. To be honest, this is the first time that I have encountered such a war. It is said that it is a total war with several fronts fighting at the same time. When I was young, the people had no way to make a living. In a tea house in Fengqiu County, under the jurisdiction of Bianzhou in Hunan Province, an old man gently patted the table and said in a strong voice after listening to others reading the newspaper and thinking about what he had seen and heard recently, "Old Master Feng, you are lucky to have lived until now and have the same surname as the county. You are 86 years old this year and have seen more than us in the past. But when it comes to the current situation, you can't keep up with it," a young man joked. The old man snorted coldly and refused to admit defeat. "I don't know if I can keep up or not. All I know is that the money for the tea and the clothes I'm wearing today was given by the yamen. It's not much, just 600 copper coins a month. If it weren't for the fact that I am old and can't read, and that my grandchildren have not come back from school yet, I would have crowded with you to listen to the newspaper. I have ordered 5 copies of the same newspaper at home. There is no other way. I have many children, and all of them are obedient and filial. Except for 3 who are not old enough to enter school and learn real skills. The rest of the children can't be ordered less. Unfortunately, the children who have left home are not around. Alas." After the old man finished speaking, he was greeted with all kinds of envious and jealous gazes. The people nearby knew very well that it was just as the old man had said. As long as he was alive, the imperial court would give him 600 copper coins every month according to his age. There would also be other gifts sent to him during festivals. He didn't need to spend any money to send letters to his distant descendants. When he went out, he didn't need to spend any money to take the carriage of the newly established imperial court. In any case, all the places where the government collected money were free of charge. He had no other choice. He had lived for a long time. He was 86 years old and had 5 generations living under the same roof. The oldest grandchild was 14 years old. If he lived for a few more years, he would have 6 generations living under the same roof. In Fengqiu, there were countless acres of land and mulberry trees in his home that stretched as far as the eye could see. Because there were too many people in his home, many of them had left to seek development in other places. They could live and give birth to more children. When the government had policies, the local officials would come to discuss with him and ask if he needed anything. In the past, he would always raise conditions that were beneficial to him, and the officials would agree to them one by one. But now, he had learned to be smart. When the officials came to ask, he would directly support them, without any conditions. This made many people with bad intentions very disappointed. They hoped that the old man would raise conditions or even refuse to carry out the orders of the government. Then they would anger the people of the government and confiscate the family. The old man had long known that some people had bad intentions, so he said that the current government was very good and would not deliberately harm people. If they followed the government's orders, they would enjoy endless benefits. Sure enough, there were a few times when the entire family supported the government's policies. The government gave his family an excellent family plaque. The good thing was that every time the government organized a small event, they would send someone to send a letter asking if his family was willing to participate. The government would take care of all the expenses, and when they returned, they would receive gifts. If his family wanted to get a loan from the Great Tang Bank, they would have priority. There were no other benefits. The benefits were shared by the people of Great Tang, and it was impossible to take away others' benefits just to stand out. Thus, some people gave their blessings, some were envious, and very few were jealous. As for what they were jealous of, they could not say. After all, they could not say that they were jealous of the old man's age. But no one criticized the old man's support for the government, because the government was worth supporting. In this era, there was no need to worry about being oppressed by the government. As long as one felt that the local government was wrong, one could run to the telegraph office and send a telegram, and the higher-ups would immediately come to investigate. Of course, one needed to use one's real name and use one's household registration to report. If one was framed, the crime would be the same as that of the official after the successful frame-up. This is called controlling. In order to show that he was up to date, the old man summarized the recent events. Father controls son, grandfather controls son and grandson, generation after generation, and the government controls all of us. Why do many things increase in price? Is it because the merchants don't want to? No, it's because they don't dare. It's like a father controlling his son. If you do, they will beat you. Old man Feng, do you know who beat the merchants? Another person joked. It's that Xiao Bao who is only a few years older than my grandson. This old man still can't figure it out. How do you think he gave birth to a child? He hasn't even been crowned yet, but he's already so powerful. The merchants will hate him. The old man began to worry about Zhang Xiaobao again. The merchants won't hate him. You always don't understand the 12 national policies. The preferential treatment for merchants is not small. When a merchant earns enough money, they turn around and change their identity. They want to take the imperial examination. 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 They want to take the land. They want to take the land. They all understand that with Xiao Bao controlling them, they seem to be at a disadvantage. But without Xiao Bao controlling them, they are finished. The Joker finally found the opportunity to be the old man's teacher and tried his best to show off. Grandpa, why aren't you going back? We are discussing important matters at home. At this time, a man in his 40s rushed in. He was wearing yellow and blue silk clothes and looked slightly awkward. The old man had not finished drinking his tea when he heard the voice. He turned his head and stared. You make the decisions at home. This old man, your father, and uncles have already let go of the family. You are the third generation head of the family. Why are you looking for me? My dear Grandpa, today's discussion is different from usual. I can't make the decision alone. I plan to take care of the land in 3 villages and open 4 workshops. In the past, I will pay for the land first. I will have to take a loan from the Tang Bank and use my family's property as collateral. I will have to leave immediately and will only be back in a month. Someone at home doesn't agree, so I came to ask you for support. Please come back with me. Old Man Feng's grandson's face was full of anxiety. When the others heard this, they all stopped talking and waited to see what the Feng family was going to do. The old man didn't move, and he wasn't as anxious as his grandson. He picked up the teacup and took a sip. Then he slowly put the teacup back and scolded, "Useless thing. Yes, your grandson is useless. Then Grandpa, if you think you are useless, then give the position of head of the family to someone else. The head of the family is the head of the family. When you were the head of the family, others agreed. Now, who dares to stand up and say they don't agree? A snake can't do without a head, and a bird can't fly without a head. Even if the decision of the head of the family is wrong, the family has to listen. Just like the rumor that Xiao Bao had 12 policies when he left the country, many people in the imperial court disagreed. What happened in the end? Whether they agree or not, they have to do it. If they can't figure it out, They have to think about it slowly. Xiao Bao is like the head of the family arranged by the emperor. When he decides, it is for the people who listen to carry it out, not for questioning. Go back. Either suppress all the people who disagree, or find someone to be the head of the family. I am already 1 foot in the coffin. Do you want me to worry? After the old man lectured him, he turned back and no longer paid attention to his grandson. The current head of the Feng family was scolded by his grandfather. He stood at the door and thought about it. He gritted his teeth. Grandpa, don't worry and drink tea. Your grandson will go back and deal with it. I promise there won't be any more problems. Don't promise me. I won't listen. Yes, your grandson will take his leave. The old man is so courageous. When the old man's grandson left, some people stuck out their thumbs and pointed at the old man. Many people also showed looks of admiration. It seemed like the old man was scolding his grandson and was unreasonable. In fact, he had taught them everything. The head of a family had to be strong, just like the leader of a pack of wolves. If he was weak, the whole pack would be finished. Old man, from what Brother Feng said, it seems like your family is planning to do a big business. A man in his 30s asked. Don't ask me. Ask your Brother Feng. I came to the tea house to drink tea and gossip. The matters of the family, whether big or small, will be taken care of by them. My children and grandchildren will have their own fortune. The old man said indifferently. After that, he stopped talking. He picked up his teacup and squinted his eyes, thinking about something. The old man's grandson was called Feng Liang. He was not the oldest grandson of the old man, but he was the most capable grandson. That was why he was chosen as the head of the family. He almost became a high scholar, but the government cheated and his position was taken by someone else. Many people said that with his knowledge, it would be no problem for him to become a grand scholar. Unfortunately, he was born at the wrong time. He was 19 that year. After being reprimanded by his grandfather, he couldn't help but think about the past when he was being taken home. Feng Liang clearly remembered that when he was young, he was very smart and eager to learn. His family had land and money. Because the government school was too far away, his family specially found a teacher to teach him. He could write poems, compose essays, and comment on current affairs. He was in the limelight for a while, but that damned county magistrate actually got in touch with the examiner of the provincial government during the exam and used someone else to push him down. At that time, he hated, resented, and was depressed. He didn't know how he got through it. Others looked at him differently, and his close brothers and sisters in the family unnaturally communicated with each other. At that time, he was on the verge of death and wanted to find a rope to hang from a crooked tree. Later, it was his grandfather who found him and told him that many people lived worse lives than him, but they lived happier lives than him because they had the belief to live on. Some did it for their parents, some did it for their wives and children, and some had unyielding ambitions. Failure wasn't scary. Countless people failed for decades and finally became successful late. Some started earning big money at the age of 20 and became rich at the age of 40. Some started to learn how to earn money at the age of 40 and became rich at the age of 50. Who was worried and who was inferior? So what was scary was falling and never wanting to get up again. So what if you became a grand scholar at the age of 19? How many young geniuses can you remember today? If you continue to live and work hard for the family wouldn't have raised you in vain. It was easy to die, but what about the family's money and effort to nurture you? Feng Liang clearly remembered that he didn't want to die at that time. He wanted to continue doing things for the family that had provided him with so much help. He decided to become the head of the family and lead the Feng family to prominence. He waited for 20 years before finally having the opportunity in front of him. Furthermore, the era was different. It wasn't like the past. In the past, there could be people who could push him down. Now who would dare? That former county magistrate, who was promoted to the state government's army, was still dealt with 3 years ago. As long as he met a good ruler, he could do whatever he wanted. The current situation was arranged by Xiao Bao. Those who had the ability could definitely go up and take over the land and organize the workshops. If they missed this opportunity, they wouldn't be able to get it again in the future. Xiao Bao, I believe that you will definitely not harm others. I, Feng Liang, will bet with you. Feng Liang clenched his fist and encouraged himself. When the driver heard the commotion, he shook his head and waved his whip in the air to urge the horse to move faster. His heart was filled with worry. In the past, the family had enough money. If they wanted to do something, they would first set aside a portion of the money and then use the rest to do it. Furthermore, the property and land deeds were not touched. Even if there was a problem, the loss would only be the portion that was taken out. It wouldn't affect the family's foundation. Now, the head of the family actually wanted to rent out the land of the other 2 villages. He also wanted to buy technology and equipment to build 4 large workshops. He had taken out all the family's money and even had to mortgage things to get loans. If something went wrong, there would be no one left in the family. It was too risky, too risky. When he returned home, Feng Liang directly used a strong tone to pass his decision. He told the people in the family that they could either transfer his position to someone else or listen to him. There was no third choice. The people in the family compromised. In the past 10 years, they were used to Feng Liang acting as the head of the family. If someone else suddenly took over, they wouldn't be able to support such a large family. Feng Liang first went to find the village chief of the 2 villages. In fact, the Feng family's village didn't only have his surname. The village had a population of more than 600, and his family only accounted for half of it. Moreover, his family also had a manor. He first settled the people in his village, then signed a new agreement with the manor. The previous agreement of selling one's body was no longer allowed. The government allowed slaves to exist, but they didn't allow the Tang people to be slaves of the great Tang people. Thus, the previous contracts of selling one's body were changed to employment contracts. The value of a person was re-evaluated, and the slaves with the contract could complain to the government at any time. When the time came, the government would help to cancel the contract. Whoever disagreed would be punished. The government didn't enforce this because some people weren't willing to change their status as slaves. For many generations, they were used to living with the master. Usually, there was no distinction between master and servant. In fact, the master even treated some of the servants better than the people they hired. For example, if they were tired from work, the master would arrange for them to rest. If they were sick, they would be treated. Of course, this wasn't necessary now. Now, there was free treatment. If you wanted to work more without rest, the master would order you to stop working. At first glance, it seemed that these people had lost their freedom, but in fact, they were living very well. The government didn't care. For example, 100 years before Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, foreign investors would force them to commit suicide every few days. The government didn't care, let alone this kind of master who treated his servants well. If one really wanted to talk about it, those who worked for others and were forced to commit suicide from exhaustion were the ones who were cheap. In terms of personality, they couldn't even compare to the current slaves. At least, the people who signed the contract of selling their bodies still had their own persistence and beliefs. There weren't many of these people, but they existed. The most obvious ones were the manor owners of the Zhang family and Wang family in Sanshui County. Their families were very rich, and any one of them would be ranked among the wealthiest in other places. They signed the contract of selling their bodies. At first it wasn't. Later on, because of confidentiality, they changed the contract. However, they weren't willing to change their identities. They had many properties in the Great Tang, but only the one in Sanshui County was their home. As for Feng Liang, he persuaded his own family's manor owner and finished discussing with the people in his village. After that, all he needed to do was to rent all the land in the 2 neighboring villages. In order to successfully complete the plan, he paid a year's rent in advance and added a 50% premium. In addition, he hired people to farm. It didn't seem cost-effective, and he couldn't even keep his capital. His family objected to him because of this. However, He had his own thoughts and considerations. He wouldn't grow crops like others. On the day he learned about the 12 national policy, he went to Bianzhou Prefecture and found the branch of the Sinong Temple in the prefecture. He asked them about the technology. The purpose of all the Sinong Temple branches was to collect data on the local environment and the effect of soil on various crops. The other purpose was to provide technical support for people who came to inquire, free of charge. For example, what to do if the cabbage at home had worms. Go to the branch of the Sinong Temple to ask and describe it. If they understood, they would directly give a solution. If they didn't understand, they would send someone to follow them home and then tell them what pesticides to buy. If the soybeans planted in the land didn't grow well, they could also go to the branch of the Sinong Temple and ask someone to check what the problem was. If the problem was in the soil and could be solved by using fertilizers, they would recommend a specific type of fertilizer. Feng Liang didn't ask about the worms and bad growth of his crops. He asked the Sinong Temple if there were any new varieties that he planned to bring over to try planting. In the end, there was. They told him that there was a new crop seed that was grafted from pepper and tomato. It had just been tested last year and hadn't been popularized. If he wanted it, he could buy it. The Sinong Temple would send someone to keep an eye on it and collect data at the same time. If it was suitable to grow on the land in Feng Liang's area, the Sinong Temple would reward Feng Liang. If it wasn't suitable, the Sinong Temple would compensate him for half of the losses, and he would bear the other half himself. At the same time, he would sell the new varieties. The Sinong Temple would supervise them. He would sell them directly to the Sinong Temple, and both sides would negotiate the price. Feng Liang was so tempted. Even if he failed and bore half of the losses, his family wouldn't go bankrupt. However, if he succeeded, the gains would be huge. Feng Liang used 2 days to successfully sign a lease contract with the 2 villages. At the same time, he also encountered trouble. As for the trouble of hiring people, Feng Liang signed a second contract with the 2 villages. After leasing the land, he would hire people to farm. He could plant whatever he wanted without negotiating with others. The people of the 2 villages naturally hoped that they would be hired back to farm. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to find anything else to do. In fact, the 2 villages and the people of Feng Liang's village didn't lose anything. Feng Liang was leasing at a premium. The extra 50% was enough to make up for the losses of the original landowner. In other words, if they farmed themselves, the final harvest would only be this amount. Moreover, the new rules now required them to sell themselves. Perhaps their income would be even lower than normal. Feng Liang was taking all the risks for them. At the same time, he was freeing their labor. If they worked again, the income they received would be considered extra. Even so, they still hoped that Feng Liang would hire them back to farm for Feng Liang. Some gave him gifts, some played the family card, and some implied threats. Feng Liang didn't accept gifts, but he wasn't afraid of threats. Those who played the family card were persuaded to go back. Then he began to choose the locals. Usually, they were close to each other, so they knew each other well. Which family did farm work well? So they all knew. Feng Liang chose a portion of them and planned to look for a portion of them outside to gather manpower or see if there were any extra cattle to rent. When the remaining people who weren't chosen complained, Feng Liang told them about the 4 workshops and was willing to hire the locals to work in the workshops. This way, it would be much easier for him to control. People who were good at farming were usually men. Women didn't have strength, and there were also men who had strength but lacked skills. They were the kind that were more stupid. Normally speaking, those who didn't meet the requirements should be eliminated. Most businessmen would choose this, or they would lose money. Feng Liang originally planned to do the same. Later, he referred to the Zhang Wang and Wang families in Sanshui County and found that the 2 families used a very reasonable labor distribution method more than 10 years ago. Every farmer didn't look very tired, but they were very efficient. No matter who was in the Zhang and Wang families' farmsteads, they were all useful. Even if they were children, when they were not in class, they could play around and help out the master's family. Even if they were lame, they would be given a very good job. For example, if they were afraid that birds would eat grains, they would be given some firecrackers. They would sit there and drink tea while looking at the fields. When they saw a bird coming, they would set off a whip, or even make a whip that was used to drive a carriage. If they had skills, the crippled people would help make baskets. Feng Liang initially thought that the Zhang Wang and Wang families didn't want to let anyone go and wanted to squeeze everyone. After reading an article in the newspaper, he understood that the goal of the Zhang Wang and Wang families was not to make others work hard, but to make everyone feel that they were valuable. A person who thought that they were worthless would lose confidence in life. When the basket weaver realized that the baskets he made were useful to the master family, and at the same time he could earn more income and be useful to his family, he would be very happy. Therefore, he would affect others. The entire Zhuangzi people would be in a happy atmosphere, and their work efficiency would increase. Feng Liang was deeply moved. He admired the way the Zhang Wang and Wang families distributed labor at that time. At the same time, he felt that there was a strong sense of humanism in it. After that, he read another article about corporate culture. It said that only a cultural enterprise with its own soul was a successful enterprise. Only then could it go further. If one sincerely invested in the construction of corporate culture, one would realize that it was directly proportional to the income of one's enterprise. In fact, the proportion of output was even greater than the proportion of investment. As a cultured person, Feng Liang agreed with this. Of course, it also depended on who wrote the article. If it was written by someone he had never heard of, he would be suspicious. However, the author of the article was Zhang Xiaobao. This could be questioned. However, if one couldn't think of a better way to manage a business, it was best to learn from him. If one had a good idea, they could write it down and let others learn from it. After concluding, Feng Liang came up with a plan to rent land and build 4 new workshops. Those who were not good at farming and were eliminated by him were arranged to work in the workshops. There were more women in the village. The men who were eliminated did not work with the women. Instead, they were assigned to work in the transportation and mixing of raw materials. There were also older men who were responsible for cooking for others. Anyway, everyone who could be used was used. Even the elderly were assigned to the position of night watch. The advantage of doing so was that the villagers did not have to work outside. If the men stayed behind to farm, what would happen to their wives at home? Would they stay there and not work? Or would they run outside to find a job? Would the men still have the mood to farm? The workshop's factory had not been built yet. While Feng Liang arranged for people to build the house and level the land, he ran to the county yamen to ask about the grading of the types of work. He explained his situation to the yamen and asked the yamen to send people to his home to grade his hired workers. It was a little troublesome because the grading of farming depended on the results of the work. Feng Liang first asked the yamen to put it on the agenda. Then, he asked the yamen to help him train his hired workers. This was free. He did not want the welfare subsidies for a period of unemployment. He requested that the yamen's trainees be specially trained according to his requirements. The yamen usually considered everything, but after hearing Feng Liang's words, they felt that it was okay and sent people over. There were many people in the 3 villages, so it was not a problem to send people over. It was not a waste of the yamen's training resources. While the training was going on, Feng Liang ran to Bianzhou's Kaifeng Manor and wrote a notice. He stood beside the yamen's bulletin board and raised it to shout, "Free volunteer assistance base for students is provided. Not only is there no charge, but accommodation and food are also provided. The local people are kind and gentle. The local children are obedient and cute. The local accommodation environment is comfortable and the food is reasonable. We welcome all students to come." Feng Liang's shout attracted many people to watch. Some people did not know what he was doing and were just there to join in the fun. Some people revealed a look of realization. One of the 12 national policies said that if students wanted to qualify for the imperial examination, they had to do 200 days of volunteer work and 100 days of free teaching. The main emphasis was on teaching. If they were willing, the first 200 days could also be used for teaching. In total, they would be qualified for the examination after teaching for 300 days. At the moment, most people were in a wait-and-see period when it came to the 12 national policies. Very few people were actually taking action. Feng Liang was considered to be the group of people who were eating crabs in advance. Seeing that the number of onlookers was gradually increasing, he rolled his eyes and shouted again, "I promise that within 3 months, I will build a library. There will be all kinds of books in it, and all the writing tools will be provided by me. Students can teach their children while learning by themselves. There is no need to pay any fees. At the same time, there are countless talented students in the schools around the village. Every month, I will fund a student exchange gathering. Come, only I know what you need. Come, I will definitely provide you with a good teaching and learning environment. If you miss it, you won't be able to find someone like me." Hey, why are you calling that? Are you different from others? I don't believe that I will regret missing out on you. I think you are just like that. Someone in the crowd jeered. Feng Liang knew that the person who jeered was definitely not a student, but he could not scold back. He revealed a gentle smile, looked in the direction of the voice, and nodded gently. Good question. What do I have that is better than others? First of all, my family is quite rich, enough to support me to fulfill my promise. I am not showing off. Everyone knows that the richest families in Tang Dynasty are the Zhang family and the Wang family. Showing off your wealth will only make people look down on you. This is the second advantage that I want to talk about. I am not as rich as Xiaobao, but I am like him and Cuckoo. I have a heart that cares for children. I hope that the children in our village and the surrounding villages will have good teachers. I really can't teach them all by myself. Although I should have been a high scholar, I was forcefully pushed down by others. Keep bragging. You think you are a high scholar? I believe in rotten people. Someone jeered again. His words were a little harsh. So the moment he finished, the person beside him gave up his seat and kept a certain distance from him. In the end, he was despised by others. He lowered his head and disappeared into the crowd. At this moment, Feng Liang really wanted to rush over and beat up the person who jeered, but he knew that he had to control himself. He still revealed a warm smile and said, "Yes, actually, you can say that I am bragging. I feel that if you want to brag, you have to have the ability to do so. I will brag. I will brag with all my strength. I will blow away the clouds and see the morning sun. The morning sun shines without sorrow. Without sorrow, without sorrow, in the country, children roam together with laughter. I ask which side do the children laugh? The children laugh and point at the emperor. The pillar of the emperor, the Huiying Hall, illuminates the country and gradually becomes stronger." After Feng Liang finished speaking, the surroundings immediately quietened down. Everyone looked at Feng Liang differently. He was indeed a student. His words flowed like water, and his words were eloquent. Good, well said. Unfortunately, I am not a student, so I can't go to your place to teach children. Do you have any students? Go quickly, follow this big brother. You definitely won't lose out. When you have nothing to do, you can even communicate. Someone began to support him. That's right, that's right. Look at how well he said it. I don't understand the meaning, but it is very comfortable to listen to. Another person echoed. Finally, someone walked out and approached Feng Liang. He asked, "When will you start? Don't you have a teacher to teach you now?" There are 150 children in the surrounding 3 villages, but there are only 6 teachers. That's not enough at all. There aren't enough subjects, so I can only teach the Analects of Confucius and simple arithmetic. I want to add in all the subjects. I'm currently studying geography and physics, and I'm still taking the chemistry exam. After I pass the exam, I'll be able to obtain the experimental equipment provided by the imperial court, and I'll use it to teach the children. Feng Liang said sincerely. He was indeed doing so. Count me in. Don't shout here. I'll help you find a few more people. With everyone contacting each other, there will be more people who want to volunteer. The person who stood forward persuaded Feng Liang. Feng Liang nodded immediately. All right, I'll treat you to a drink. We'll talk while drinking. In fact, it's best to start work now. The sooner we finish the 300 days of work, the sooner we don't have to worry when we want to take the exam in the future. It's useless to wait and see. Will Xiao Bao change the national policy? I heard that when the imperial court is discussing, His Majesty only allows everyone to listen, watch, and discuss, but is not allowed to object. Xiao Bao is playing a big game of chess. Don't think that you can reverse the tide. Feng Liang spoke very loudly for others to hear. When he was about to leave, he turned around and shouted, "My family is from Fengqiu County. My surname is Feng. Anyone who is interested in developing there can come and take a look first. I'll definitely be waiting for you." There was a clamor of agreement from the surrounding crowd. Feng Liang was relieved. Now, he didn't have to worry about the children of his employees. With a good teaching environment and teachers, he believed that the employees would work in peace. At the same time, they would stay in the local area to develop. Even if the skills of the employees improved in the future, and someone wanted to spend a large sum of money to rope them in, the employees would first have to consider if it was worth it to leave the local area to earn more money. Would others still provide their children with such a good education environment and care? Feng Liang was the first batch of people to take action when the 12 national policies were released. There were also people who were not in business or agriculture who actively joined the army to receive military training. Some of them wanted to complete the stipulated time for this year's military training as soon as possible, while others wanted to practice guns. Usually, they could only see guns made of wood. It was satisfying to hold them in their hands or shoot out fireworks horizontally. It was not easy to get the chance to touch a real gun. At the same time, they did not need to worry about being sent to the front lines to fight right after they started training. Then, they would be beaten to death because they did not learn the basics well. It would probably take them at least 2 years to learn. If they really needed to participate in the war, they would also have to undergo intensive and specialized training. Then, they would learn more and would not need to be afraid of dying when fighting with advanced weapons. After Zhang Xiaobao released the 12 national policies, the entire Tang Empire's society began to quietly change in just a few days. One after another, people who dared to gamble chose to be the team leader after the land was annexed. Furthermore, most people chose the second option, which was to lease the land and then farm it according to their own wishes. At the same time, there were people who originally had a small workshop and hired a few people. Seeing that they had the support of the national policies, they began to expand their scale. There were also people who were originally workers. When they saw the hope of earning a lot of money, they contacted a few people from the same hometown and started to recruit people to start their own workshops. The Great Tang Bank was filled with people applying for loans. The officials were also busy helping the bank to verify the qualifications of the applicants. There were also businessmen who were rich and wealthy who began to look for investment opportunities. They observed the land in various places and the existing workshops. Then they asked the other party if they were willing to expand their production. If they were willing, they would be able to get a sum of money from the other party if the loan amount was not enough. This money was not a loan shark, but an investment. The first type of distribution was shares, which meant that there would be dividends when the time came. The other type of distribution was based on a fixed number of months and years. When the amount reached a certain amount, there would no longer be a partnership. Regardless of which type, the investor would have to bear the risk together with the person in charge of the land or the workshop. 2 days later, social problems began to erupt. A large portion of the land was annexed, and many people who were weak in farming lost their jobs. A large number of workshops were annexed, and if they were not easily annexed, they would be affected by the cost and closed down in the future. Similarly, a large number of people lost their jobs. Many people began to go to the designated places to take the examination for their work. When their rank was high, they would request for better treatment. Some people did not pass the examination, or because they did not have any skills in the past, they could only participate in training. In the end, a scene that the officials and Li Longji did not expect occurred. They initially thought that Zhang Xiaobao's 12 national policies would cause a large number of people to lose their jobs, which would be a source of unrest for the country. However, what they saw shocked them. It wasn't that many people lost their jobs, but that many people were unable to find workers. Those who passed the examination had high expectations, so they would rather not do the work if the pay was too low. Those who did not have a rank were mostly participating in training. They did not want to lower their income due to a lack of skills, and there were also some who had reached the age to participate in military training. For a moment, Great Tang's manpower shortage appeared, and many workshops and merchants were extremely anxious. They wanted to raise their wages, but they also had to calculate their own costs. If they wanted to raise the price of their products, they would have to consider the purchasing power of others. This was especially so when Zhang Xiaobao refused to allow the price to rise. During the morning court session, Li Longji shouted to the officials below, "Xiaobao is truly infuriating this emperor." His detailed explanation did not mention what to do about this matter. The officials remained silent. In any case, he was not talking about them, but Zhang Xiaobao. Only after he was done talking could they move on to the next step of the discussion. Speak. What did you all say at the start? You all said that there would be a large number of people losing their jobs. But what about now? You can't find any workers. Isn't that miraculous? Didn't you all think that you have learned very well? Now I want you all to explain to this emperor what went wrong. Of course, Li Longji couldn't possibly look for Zhang Xiaobao. It was too far away, and there was no point in sending a telegram. Wouldn't that mean that he had admitted defeat? How difficult was it to beat Xiaobao? This was an opportunity. Could it be that none of his subordinates could think of a solution? The officials remained silent. In any case, they would just hide as long as they weren't called. The Minister of Revenue, Wang Bei, stepped forward and said, "This subject doesn't know why this situation happened, but this subject wants to say that the expenditure of the National Treasury has increased recently. Training people is money, so is the evaluation. Also, the training of the recruited soldiers is also money. Due to the lack of manpower in the workshops and merchants, the flow of goods and cash will also decrease for a period of time. This subject is worried that there won't be enough money." Many people looked at Wang Bei and cursed him for lying through his teeth. How could the National Treasury not have enough money? Even if there wasn't any income, it would still be enough to last for half a year. Furthermore, there was a steady flow of money into the National Treasury. Could it be that the things plundered from the battlefield weren't income? Zhang Xiaobao wasn't greedy. Could it be that the things he sold to Japan and other places weren't income? Li Longji raised his eyebrows and stared at Wang Bei. Wang Bei felt his hair stand on end. Only then did he say, "Minister Wang, make a report. It needs to be detailed so that this emperor can take a look." Wang Bei was dumbfounded. Writing a report would be very troublesome, right? Li Longji's eyes swept over everyone's faces. When he saw that Zhang Zhong's expression was normal, he thought for a moment and asked, "Minister Zhang, do you have anything to say?" "Actually, this subject wants to say what your Majesty said to this subject a few days ago." Zhang Zhong stepped forward. Chapter 1250. What did I say to you? Li Longji blurted out his thoughts in a daze. Then, he realized that Zhang Zhong didn't want to make things difficult for him and wanted him to show off his abilities as an emperor. Thus, he hurriedly said, "Yes, I told you before. I said that it's a lack of manpower, but it's not a problem. Furthermore, it's a simple matter that will be completely solved in 2 months." Zhang Zhong cooperatively continued the conversation. Yes. I mentioned it when I ate at your restaurant that day. That day, you said that it's not the season to eat crabs yet. When the time comes, you should think of a way to have Xiaobao personally cook a few crabs and send them back for everyone to try. Li Longji came to a realization and pointed at Zhang Zhong as he spoke. The officials standing on the steps watched the emperor's performance and took it as such. They were already used to it. Not only did they look at the emperor, but they also looked at their colleagues in the same way. If one day they were to see a colleague speak the truth, then they would be shocked. Zhang Zhong nodded repeatedly. Isn't it just crabs? When the time comes, I'll send a few crabs to everyone to try. It's not a big deal. Then he continued. Back then, Your Majesty said that the lack of manpower is due to the sudden influx of people participating in military training. After this year's training, everyone will understand that during a certain period of time, they won't be able to participate in the training. Next year, this busy period of time will be different. Usually, the training will take around 2 months. If it's fast, 4 to 7 days will be enough. By then, the manpower will be replenished. Furthermore, the price for recruitment will no longer be the high wage given the lack of manpower. Instead, it will return to normal and be calculated according to the grade of the job. Perhaps during this period, a group of people who help cheat will be investigated. When everything is on the right track, there will be no need to worry about the instability of the country. With that, Zhang Zhong returned to his seat. Li Longji and the officials thought about it and felt that this was indeed the case. When the people who participated in the military training returned, and after the training, there would still be unemployment. Oh, we also said that the significance of this was that while it seemed like there would be a delay, after these 2 months, the Great Tang as a whole would have improved in terms of technology. Moreover, in the future, there would be accurate rules to measure competition, which would allow the people of the Great Tang to improve their own standards. Li Longji wasn't stupid. He had come to this conclusion from Zhang Zhong's words. It was worth it to exchange a small amount of unrest in the country for a long period of steady improvement in the country. Your Majesty is wise, the officials said in unison. Li Longji smiled and nodded. He didn't blush at all. After a short pause, he turned to Zhang Zhong and asked, "This emperor also mentioned something the other day. Do you remember?" Wang Ke snickered and looked at Zhang Zhong. He thought, "You deserve it. Who told you to talk too much? Say it again." Zhang Zhong expressionlessly stepped forward again and took out a piece of paper from his sleeve. He didn't look at the tablet in his hand. Clearly, there were too many things to remember. Unless there was a flipping device on the tablet, he couldn't remember anything. With a cough, Zhang Zhong read, "Your Majesty also said that people from Xinluo and Japan have begun to come to the Great Tang. Some of them will arrive immediately. There are also children and their families participating in the competition. More than 200,000 people can come at once. This group of people came at the right time. Keep them here. According to the plan discussed by Xiaobao, this can solve a part of the shortage of workers. Moreover, they don't need to be paid too much. It's fine as long as it's 1 or 2 times more than their original salary." There's such a thing. When you mentioned it, this emperor suddenly remembered that it wasn't just the people who came back this time. There were also people from Xinluo who were willing to leave their country. There wasn't much use for them to stay in northern Hebei province for the time being. It would be better to send them here, where more manpower is needed. After some calculations, with the help of the merchants from Japan, it won't be a problem to attract more than 1 million people. Moreover, with their participation, the employers won't have to raise their wages indefinitely. This will balance the relationship between employers and workers in society. Li Longji was very happy. He didn't expect Zhang Zhong to be so capable. If he couldn't answer, how embarrassing would it be? "Your Majesty, this subject remembers that you said a few things to Brother Yongcheng that day." Wang Bei joined in the fun and said with bad intentions. Li Longji glared at Wang Bei. Many officials wanted to laugh, but they had to hold it in. They looked very hurt. Without waiting for Li Longji to find a way to smooth things over, Zhang Zhong continued, "Yes, Your Majesty also said that the army in front of us will capture many captives. It's too cruel to kill them. Therefore, we should give the captives a chance to turn over a new leaf. It just so happens that there are many things in the Great Tang that require courage. Why not let the captives prove themselves once?" Li Longji turned his head to the west and asked, "When will they be back?" According to the latest intelligence, the first batch of captives has more than 175,000 people, and they're currently on their way back. A portion of them are man-eaters, and the rest are people from various countries in India. They're helping the man-eaters distribute supplies and provide shelter. Zhang Zhong replied. Li Longji looked at Gao Lisher, and the latter nodded. The news had just arrived when the morning court was about to begin. Most likely, Zhang Zhong had been shoved into his hands before coming here. Otherwise, he would have been able to memorize it. There was no need for him to read it out loud. Li Longji was relieved. Yes, I did consider the matter of the captives that day, but I didn't expect that the first batch would already be on their way back. This means that we can free up some manpower in the mines and quarries, and at the same time reduce the cost. There won't be a need to invest too much in safety measures, and there won't be a need to provide them with good food. Similarly, there won't be a need to provide them with alcohol. As a qualified emperor, Li Longji's first thought was to reduce the cost of assistance. His own people would use all kinds of methods to carefully investigate the mines before going down. Even so, they couldn't avoid danger. Therefore, he repeatedly told his people that as long as they felt danger, they should immediately come out of the mines. They could mine slowly and not put their lives on the line. At the same time, there was no lack of alcohol and meat, and the working environment was cold and humid. Similarly, in the quarries, they had to wear safety helmets and gloves. Some even had to use thick glasses to block their eyes, and wear dust filters. These were all costs. The captives caught from outside didn't need to wear these things. After all, they had the same job in their own country without any protective measures. Although they weren't provided with meat, they were provided with enough salt. The food they ate in their own country might not be as good as that of the Tang slaves. The only difference was that they didn't receive wages. Li Longji thought about it again and felt that there was nothing else to say. He looked down and said, "What else do you all want to discuss?" Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were still in Yi Province. They didn't go to any of the battlefields. The feedback from the battlefields was good. The speed of their advance wasn't fast, but it was stable. At the same time, they saw through many of the enemy's tactics. They didn't suffer any casualties when they attacked. Lu Zhou's landing team had gone around Jinla and was heading toward the back of the duo people. If Jinla made a move, the two of them would go over personally. Their personal guards were enough to push in. Now, they just had to wait for news from the Meteor Squad. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were free now. Every morning, afternoon, and night, they would look at the map according to the news from the front line. Then, they would come up with a plan. If they could use the front line, they would use them. If they couldn't, they would abandon them. The rest of the time was spent on learning and teaching their younger siblings. Recently, Little Bay and the others would go out for about 4 hours every day. They seemed to be busier than the adults. Sometimes they would go to other people's restaurants. Sometimes they would listen to storytellers in the tea houses by the street. Sometimes they would go to the nearby school to play with the children. After going out today, they only came back when it was almost time for dinner. At noon, they ate outside with the children in the school. They were picky with their food and obviously didn't feel good. At dinner, they ate half a bowl more than usual. After that, each of them held a plate of fruit and stared blankly. Wang Wan nudged Zhang Xiaobao, signaling him to see what was going on. Something was wrong. Zhang Xiaobao first called the people who accompanied them out today and asked them. They didn't find anything wrong. At noon, they ate almost nothing. Therefore, when the little ones got their food, they only got half of their usual share and ate it all. In the afternoon, they had 2 classes with a class of their own. After that, they played for a while and distributed the snacks in their bags to the children. Little Bay sang 2 songs and came back for dinner. Everything was normal. "You guys made it?" Zhang Xiaobao couldn't figure out what was going on. He directly asked his younger siblings. "No." Little Bay shook his head. "Why are you so listless?" Zhang Xiaobao asked again. "I'm thinking about something. Brother, you and Sister go do your things first. I'll find you later." Little Bei pushed his hand and asked his brother and sister to leave. They wanted to discuss something. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan looked at each other and smiled. They turned and left, leaving only Little Bei and the other 9 people behind. Could it be that they saw something bad in the school and have some thoughts? Wang Wan walked out and asked, "Who knows? Let's wait and see what they want to discuss." Zhang Xiaobao smiled. After about half an hour, Little Bei held a notebook in his arms and skipped into his brother and sister's room. Finished the discussion? Zhang Xiaobao asked. Little Bei nodded and came to the sofa. He nestled his whole body in it. He first smiled at his brother and sister and then said, "Brother, we found a problem." "What problem?" Zhang Xiaobao was very cooperative. "About the oil extraction. Today, I'll treat our school friends to snacks. You know sunflower seeds, right? There's oil in them, and they look pretty good. Press them out and taste them. They're so fragrant." Xiao Bei took out a handful of sunflower seeds and bit one open. Then he pressed his hand against the glass coffee table with all his might. His thumbnail was already on it. Then he raised his hand and waved his thumb in front of his siblings, indicating that there was oil on it. Zhang Xiaobao's eyes widened in surprise. He stared at Little Bei's thumb and said, "Oh, there's oil? What's going on?" "Brother, your expression is so fake. Hee hee, look at sister laughing at you." Little Bei winked at Zhang Xiaobao and laughed happily. "Okay, you saw through me. I admit that your sister and I already knew that there was oil in sunflower seeds. We also know that the oil inside is pretty good. It's better than soybean oil. It can be used to stir-fry vegetables or cold dishes. It's even nutritious to drink a small spoonful of it. It's nutritious. The reason why sunflower seeds taste good is because of the oil inside. Otherwise, when you eat watermelon seeds, if you don't add seasonings or cook them, the taste will be much worse. Sunflower seeds are very good both when stir-fried and raw. Your sister and I originally planned to plant more and then start to extract oil in large quantities. In fact, part of the oil you're eating now is sunflower seed oil. We just didn't tell you." Zhang Xiaobao explained to his sister. Little Bei was very disappointed. "There's already oil? We were still thinking of using some of the sunflower seeds at home to make premium oil in the future to make money. Then we'll leave this business to you. We won't interfere with the sunflower seeds anymore. You'll be in charge. You'll build the equipment and sell it, okay?" Zhang Xiaobao looked at Wang Wan and gave her a type of oil. "Okay, brother, sister. Don't worry. We'll definitely sell the sunflower seed oil at a higher price. Then, we'll use more of it to make cakes. Sunflower seed oil is good for the body. We'll give it to the children." Little Bei swung her 2 legs and looked very happy. She lowered her head and looked at her notebook. Then she looked up and said to her brother, "There's still one more thing that needs to be negotiated." "Oh, what's the matter?" Zhang Xiaobao asked with a smile. "We want to buy the copyright of our family's children's Monopoly game. Then we'll open it in Duoshire in India. We'll use their style and maps to play. At the same time, we'll send it back to China. We can also add some exotic scenery," Little Bei said to her brother. Zhang Xiaobao nodded. "Okay, your sister and I will allow you to sell the children's version of Monopoly outside. However, it must be made by us. You can't make it privately. At the same time, for every copy sold, you have to pay us 50% of the profits. Any changes to the content of the game have to be approved by us. We'll use a one-time payment method for the foreign maps and characters you sell to China. That means no matter how much we produce or print in the future, we won't continue to pay you." "Huh." Xiao Bei stared at his brother with his eyes wide open. After a few seconds, he blinked and said, "That won't do. The domestic market is so big. If we sell it overseas, there won't be many people who can afford it. We're planning to target their civilization and attack them. Besides, we have to get your permission. What can we play? Also, your demand for profits is too high." We have to obtain the production rights and the rights to change the characters and maps for those sold to China. Because we are the main source of resources, we ask that the quantity and quality of your production be strictly monitored. For every copy sold, you have to pay us. If you hold a children's competition, we ask for the right to advertise. After saying that, Little Bei stared nervously at her brother. Wang Wan was smiling at the side. Zhang Xiaobao thought for a while, rolled his eyes, and said, "Okay, we agree to your request. However, we have to add a condition. If you use the maps provided by the military and the maps of our intelligence department, you have to pay extra. It can be a one-time payment, but at least 500,000 strings of cash for a map of 10,000 square kilometers. It can also be based on the amount of production, with a 50% profit. During this process, the rights to the other versions of Monopoly will be completely given to us. You are not allowed to carry out any sales, publicity, or production." Little Bei slapped her forehead hard. "Aya, brother, why are you like this? Didn't you just give up the sunflower oil right away? What are you doing? Now that you're talking about it, my head hurts and I'm confused. I can't figure it out. Is it a loss or a gain for the relief draft?" Zhang Xiaobao smiled but did not say a word. Wang Wan got up and went to Little Bei's sofa. She hugged Little Bei and explained, "Little Bei, you said before that if you wanted the production and sales of the sunflower oil as your brother and sister, we would give it to you, because you are our younger siblings. But you said later that it was a negotiation, so we need to put aside our other identities and just be negotiating partners. In other words, that Xiaobao in front is your brother, but the one behind is not your brother. Why don't you give up on the negotiation and ask your brother and sister for it? Your brother and sister will give it to you directly." "Don't." Little Bei pouted and shook her head. "I don't believe it. I'll remember what I said just now. I'll look for Xiao Yuan and Xiao Hai to discuss it. Negotiation is negotiation. At the very least, I have to figure out what's going on first. Wait. If there's no result tonight, we'll think about it again tomorrow morning." Humph. With that, Little Bei ran out. Chapter 1251. When they woke up the next morning, the 9 little guys didn't go anywhere after breakfast. They went back to their own yard to discuss things. At noon, they came out for a quick meal and turned around to go back. In the evening, Xiao Bei came back with a book in her arms. She set up a carriage and negotiated with her brother. In the end, she left in a daze. The next day, the result was the same. On the next day, Xiao Bei ran to Zhang Xiaobao as soon as she came in. She opened her arms and hugged Zhang Xiaobao's neck. She said coquettishly, "Brother, you must be very busy with domestic affairs recently. You must be very tired, right?" "It's okay," Zhang Xiaobao said as he leaned close to his sister's face. "Don't lie, we all know. Brother, how about this? You rest first. It's just a small problem of children playing Monopoly outside. It's not worth your trouble. Sister will do it with you, right?" Xiao Bei continued to hug her brother's neck. Yes, it's the same whether I talk to your sister or not." Zhang Xiaobao stood up and hugged Xiao Bei and spun 2 rounds on the ground. Xiao Bei giggled for a while. After landing, she looked at Wang Wan. "Then, is it the same if we talk to my sister?" "It's the same." "You talk, I'll go rest," Zhang Xiaobao said to his sister with a smile. "Goodbye, brother." Seeing her brother go to another room, Xiao Bei waved her hand and turned to Wang Wan. "Sister, let's start the negotiation now, okay?" Wang Wan nodded and pursed her lips into a smile. "All right, let's talk. Last time, your brother said that he allowed you to get intelligence and military maps at the price of 5,000 strings of coins per 10,000 square kilometers. However, you must gather 85% of the foreign children in this 10,000 square kilometers. For every percentage point less, you have to pay an additional 1,000 strings of coins. At the same time, you will also be given 26% of the shares of other domestic Monopoly games. However, you need to taste the real foreign food and develop a series of food that domestic children are willing to accept. At least 50% of the children will like it. For every percentage point less, your shares will also be reduced by 1 percentage point. Everything else remained the same. Your older brother directly agreed to all of your requests. He didn't make any changes based on your requests. Instead, he added our side's conditions. You have to understand that if it were anyone else negotiating with your brother like this, your brother would definitely not make such a concession. Allowing your conditions is a loss to his own interests. Now, tell me, what do you want to talk to me about? Wang Wan made things very clear. Xiao Bei represented the 9 of them and made one request after another in exchange for more benefits in the negotiations. Zhang Xiaobao did not directly discuss Xiao Bei and the others' conditions. Instead, he came up with new conditions. It was impossible for the same thing to happen in a real negotiation. The other party's conditions would definitely be the most beneficial to the other party. A very important part of the negotiation process was to suppress the other party's conditions, even if they did not understand the effect of the conditions on the mutual benefits of the two parties. Wang Wan kept looking at how Zhang Xiaobao nodded no matter what conditions Xiao Bei put forward. Then he put forward his own additional conditions, weakening the benefits of Xiao Bei and the others again. When it came to spoiling and training his younger brothers and sisters, he showed his level. Not everyone could use additional conditions to make up for the loss of benefits caused by the main conditions. Wang Wan also knew that Zhang Xiaobao did not take the negotiations proposed by his younger brothers and sisters seriously at all. Every time they negotiated, he would deal with them as they came. And all of this was not to say that his younger brothers and sisters were weak. If it were someone not in the top-ranking list of billionaires negotiating with Xiao Bei and the others, they would definitely be tricked by Xiao Bei and the others and suffer a big loss. Don't think that children are easy to fool. You have to see how they were raised first. The people who followed Xiao Bei and the others, except for Li Yilong, were all elites from the inner courtyard. There were people who specialized in conspiracies, people who played open schemes, people who knew economics, people who understood politics, people who planned battles, and people who were familiar with human nature. Xiao Bei and the others learned by themselves. Occasionally, they would pull someone from the inner courtyard to have a discussion with them. After so many years, if they could not learn anything, how low would their IQ be? Wang Wan could say with certainty that the people assigned to her younger brothers and sisters were better than the people who followed her and Xiao Bao, especially the 2 fast shooters who guarded the 2 guards. Now, there were 4 of them. She and Xiao Bao did not have a single one by their side. They were all given to their younger brothers and sisters. Therefore, Wang Wan felt that at her younger siblings' current age, she could not be too indulgent and flattering. She should suppress them when she needed to. It just so happened that they came looking for her, and as expected, they were casually suppressed by their older brother, Xiao Bao. That kind of understatement and unrestrained additional conditions that he proposed were the most hurtful. She believed that her younger siblings would work harder in the future and not be arrogant and complacent. Now that Xiao Bao was sent away, she had to complete this task. She was also casually nodding and agreeing to her younger brothers and sisters' conditions. She also gave additional conditions. Otherwise, if she was weaker, Xiao Bei and the others would feel that they were more capable. It would be easy for them to suffer more losses. Xiao Bei did not know why she was constantly suppressed by her older brother's negotiation techniques. She and the other 8 siblings did not understand their older brother and sister's painstaking efforts. They wanted them to have confidence, but not be arrogant. They just wanted to have a little advantage in the negotiation. However, it had been 3 days. She was very serious in the negotiation, but her older brother dealt with it like it was a game. What was the problem? Xiao Bei thought. She looked up and saw her older sister's smiling eyes. She twisted her body and smiled embarrassedly. Okay, sister. Yes, we are afraid of brother. We finally know why the merchants of Tang Empire are so honest. We thought and thought until our heads hurt. In the end, brother casually said something. When I went back and thought about it with them, I found that I was at a disadvantage again. In the end, we felt that we made a mistake, a big mistake. Yes, a mistake. So? Wang Wan asked with a smile. So we decided to change the negotiation rules. According to Xiao Yuan, instead of stopping the boiling water, it is better to take drastic measures. We found the wrong opponent to negotiate with previously. It is the biggest joke in the world to play economic games with brother. We are using our shortcomings to attack his strengths. To sum it up, we are stupid. Xiao Bei was very calm. Since her older brother had promised not to participate in the negotiation, he would not go back on his words. Even if her older brother heard what she said in the room next door, he would not come out to the negotiating position again. It was just like how her older brother disdained to use administrative means to solve economic schemes. In the past few days, the 9 of them went to visit. Most of the merchants said that they were afraid of their older brother, not because of his position, but because of the confidence that her older brother had when dealing with them. If he did not use administrative means, they would not be her older brother's opponent. That administrative order that could be used at any time was like a loaded bullet that had not been fired. It was like swimming on their own. They were not afraid of how deep the water was, but they were afraid of not being able to find the bottom. Administrative orders were the simplest method and could easily solve any economic scheme. However, if her older brother did not use them, no one could guess how many methods her older brother had and how profound his way of doing things was. Indeed, the unknown was the scariest. Wang Wan looked at the changing expression on Xiao Bei's face. She seemed to think of her sister's concerns and admiration for her older brother. So she said, "Did you guys adjust the negotiation strategy and use a trick to lure the enemy to change the leader? It looks like you guys are treating me as a pushover. Tell me, what is the content of your negotiation today?" Xiao Bei shrunk her neck and stuck out her tongue. Her eyes kept rolling as she shook her head. "No, I just feel that sister is better than brother. Brother is not giving in at all. Be careful that your older brother won't cook for you guys tomorrow. All right, let's see if I can give in today's conditions." Wang Wan touched and pinched Xiao Bei's face as she spoke. Xiao Bei sat up straight, looked at the folder she had brought, and said, "All right, regarding the conditions raised by brother yesterday, we have the following ideas. For every 10,000 square kilometers of map provided by the Intelligence Department and the Military Department, we should not pay 5,000 strings of coins. This is because everyone knows that it is impossible to use military maps in a child's Monopoly game. Military maps are top secret. We ask that you treat some of our partners according to the actual situation. We have protected your military confidentiality system, but your fees are too high. Furthermore, when we release the game locally, we will definitely obtain new local intelligence, more detailed and specific information. Children are not tight-lipped. Therefore, in exchange for the exact information we can obtain, we will reduce the cost of all map modifications. At the same time, due to the geographical constraints of the objective traffic situation, where can we find 85% of the children? If you insist, I need you to fully equip the early stages of transportation infrastructure. As for the second point, we believe that the 26% shares we can obtain is too little. In other words, we lack the understanding between partners to let 50% of the children like to eat foreign food. Because after continuous trials, we believe that more adults will like to eat the foreign food that we have researched. Therefore, we ask that you increase the shares given to us in other Monopoly games. Otherwise, we will ask that the adults in the country are not allowed to eat the foreign food that we have researched after trying it. After Xiao Bei finished speaking, he looked at his sister without blinking. They had discussed for a long time last night before coming up with targeted conditions, and they were very convincing. Now that brother was not participating in the negotiations, he wanted to see how his sister would respond. Perhaps he could gain a huge advantage. Wang Wan still smiled and nodded. "All right, we accept all of your requests." Xiao Bei immediately sighed when he heard this. He knew that it was over. His sister's tone was too similar to his brother's. In the past few days, he had already known that when his brother agreed to his conditions without hesitation, the additional conditions he mentioned would cause him to lose a lot of benefits. His sister definitely knows how to. You businessmen have been deceived. The demoness cuckoo, in your eyes, is not only good at fighting. Just as Xiao Bei was worried, after Wang Wan agreed to the conditions, she said to Xiao Bei, "We fully support your pursuit of benefits. Similarly, we also have our own interests." Say it, I am mentally prepared. Xiao Bei lowered his head dejectedly. Under normal circumstances, when an adult saw Xiao Bei like this, they would be soft-hearted and give in. However, Wang Wan knew that now was not the time to be soft-hearted. Her younger brother and sister negotiating with her, and Xiao Bao was a child acting coquettishly and showing off to adults. If it was too easy for them to gain recognition in terms of knowledge, they would very likely put their thoughts on other aspects in the future. Taking a deep breath, Wang Wan glanced at Zhang Xiaobao, who had half of his head peeking out from another room. She said to Xiao Bei, "According to the advantages you mentioned, we require you to summarize a piece of useful information from the foreign children every day. At the same time, we no longer require you to recruit 85% of the children, but you need at least 20% of the children to be convinced by you within half a year to acknowledge our Tang Empire. You also need to convince 10% of the parents to change their hostile views towards our Tang Empire. As for the second point you raised, under the condition that we agree, the share distribution will be calculated according to the proportion of the adults who specially order the foreign dishes in each restaurant. You can send financial supervisors to calculate, and then distribute according to the net profit ratio of the foreign dishes sold. You can have 50% of the shares." I knew it would be like this. Anyway, there is still a lot of time before we can really sell the monopoly toy to the foreign world. We are not afraid. We have already prepared for a long and difficult negotiation process. I will remember it. When I go back, I will discuss with them. I can't put all my thoughts on the negotiation and delay other things. It is not worth it. I am going back now. Brother, where are you? I am leaving now. Xiao Bei found that things were not different from what he had guessed. He let out a long breath and admitted this fact. He yawned and prepared to go back to his courtyard. Zhang Xiaobao came out from the room next door and carried Xiao Bei downstairs. Wang Wan followed to send him off. At the back door of the first floor, Zhang Xiaobao said to his sister, "I heard that the prefectural school will hold a table tennis competition for all children between the ages of 7 and 13. If you have time, go and take a look and support the sports development of Tang Empire. Then, will we come back for dinner tomorrow?" Xiao Bei was very afraid of eating outside. If the food was not delicious, he had to pretend that he liked to eat. It is not easy to be a public figure. Xiao Bei sighed like an adult. Zhang Xiaobao kissed his sister's face and patted Xiao Bei's head. "Tomorrow, I will ask someone to send food over. Take it as supporting the sports development of Tang Empire. Out of the 8 dishes, you can choose any 4 dishes. 2 meat dishes, 2 vegetables, and 1 soup. Okay, I'm leaving now." Xiao Bei skipped away. Wang Wan looked at Xiao Bei's departing figure and turned to Zhang Xiaobao. It is not easy for the younger brothers and sisters. As public figures, they are invited to participate in all kinds of activities almost every day. Unlike us, others know that we have to think about the war and domestic affairs, so they do not dare to invite us. The children of aristocratic families seem to be very happy, but they are actually busier than ordinary children. After a few days, it is up to them. If they feel tired, they can tell others not to invite them in the future. Otherwise, they will be like celebrities and have to appear in all kinds of situations. Zhang Xiaobao nodded. Suddenly, he felt that something was wrong. After thinking about it, he coughed and said to Wang Wan, "What era are you talking about, public figures? What era are they?" Wang Wan was stunned. Then, she rolled her eyes at Zhang Xiaobao. "Why do you have such a strong resentment for that era?" Yes, public figures must be able to perform the specific actions that his or her identity in front of the public represents to society. The social role you embody is to promote purity, so you cannot perform any actions that are pure. You want to create an artistic image for the public, so you feel that you cannot reveal your erotic nature. You want to let the public know what honesty and justice are, so you cannot be corrupt or take bribes. Are you planning to criticize them? Criticize the public figure of that time for not being in line with his or her specific actions and promoting social concepts. But you have to know that existence is reasonable. Under the circumstances of a special social period, there are bound to be some special social behaviors that survive in the soil. Zhang Xiaobao shook his head, looking as if he had been wronged. I didn't say anything. I was just asking. Knowledge, knowledge. I ask as I learn. What makes you think you can judge me? But I agree with a part of what you just said. Do you agree that it is reasonable for public figures to perform under certain circumstances when they do not perform as they wish? Wang Wan asked. No, I agree with what you said before. For example, if there is a prostitute in a brothel, she must ensure that she has not been groomed by a man. Otherwise, she will immediately be removed from the list of prostitutes. I actually admire the women from more than 100 years ago. When they debuted, they took off their clothes. That was their public image. I don't think there is anything wrong with that. But I am very disgusted by the fact that they spent tens of thousands of dollars to invite women from other countries who sell their bodies. They just have to talk about art. This is clearly a kind of blasphemy to their identity as a prostitute. Zhang Xiaobao continued to criticize as he explained. Watch your mouth. Be careful of offending people. What if you meet someone like Wang Bei who is unrepentant and insists on making trouble for our family? Actually, what you just said is related to the education of the local officials. Back then, it was not like now. If the officials did something immoral, they would be pointed at and scolded on the street and blushed. The officials back then were successful in their cultivation. Okay, let's not talk about the things back then, okay? Let's talk about Xiao Bei and the others. I was serious about what I said just now. I have really decided to use Xiao Bei and the others' game of Monopoly to attack the national spirit of the other countries. He was already used to Zhang Xiaobao's cynical personality, so he changed the topic and talked about the national spirit of the other countries. Zhang Xiaobao pondered for a moment and said, I know. I also support it and have been doing it. Just like the long-term strategy that the United States used against China, they used all kinds of methods to destroy the history, culture, and beliefs of the Chinese people. The simplest method is economic. Yes, the United States was very successful. Some people were attracted by the beautiful foreign economy. They did not think about how long China had been established. They only saw the wealth of the United States and the various domestic problems at that time. But in fact, the United States was also a failure. The Americans seemed to be unable to understand our nation. We scold and love at the same time. When we have nothing to do, we scold to our heart's content. But when faced with a life and death situation, we will stand up and use our lives to support our nation. I used to think about it, and later I felt that this was the survival of the Chinese people. All the ancient civilizations had disappeared. So why did China still exist? It is because this nation is very different. Their nobility makes the world blush with shame, and their despicable level embarrasses themselves. It is a contradictory combination. It is also because of its uniqueness that its civilization and spirit have been passed down. Then what you mean is that now we also want to see what situation the people of Tang are in now. Wang Wan asked. No, I want to see if we can help the other ancient countries to perish in advance and then be reborn. The reborn countries do not even have their own civilization spirit. I will help them to reorient themselves, such as learning our Chinese civilization and becoming a part of us, Zhang Xiaobao said with a smile. Chapter 1252. The next day, Xiao Bei and the other 9 kids went to the government's school together. It was an ancient school that had been around for more than 100 years. Many talents had been produced and recorded. Now, portraits were hung up for future generations to admire. Were there any villains? Yes, but villains weren't qualified to be painted, let alone be hung there. The government school used to be located in the center of the city. Now, because of the expansion of the city, the location of the state capital was shifted, and the school was shifted as well. It was similar to the state capital, but it was slightly renovated. It wasn't an unspoken rule that officials didn't renovate the Yamen. In the past, the government didn't renovate the Yamen. The officials would rather be greedy than renovate the Yamen. They would be scolded by the people, criticized by their colleagues, and impeached by the imperial censor. Now, the Yamen was renovated as much as possible. The officials had to work in a comfortable environment, and the rooms for receiving the people also had to make them feel no pressure when they came in, as if they were at home. The reason why the Yamen and school weren't renovated immediately was because they were going to move. Ijo planned to further expand the city without the city wall. The city wall was no longer useful, and there was no need to leave it as a cultural relic for future generations to see. If future generations wanted to travel, they wouldn't come just to see what the wall was, right? What needed to be left for future generations was a kind of spirit, a series of knowledge, and a rich and beautiful land. The Yamen and school were going to be moved out of the city. They would be renovated in the city. Now there were more and more people, and it was too crowded. Outside the city, they were building a base, designing the water and sewer systems, spacious streets, and towering buildings. There were 4 stories tall, and each household was very large. There was quite a lot of space between the buildings. Then there was the library, the garden, and the open-air market. After Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan came over, they felt that life was too leisurely, so they suggested to do it locally. They also helped to design it. Because there was no electricity, gas, or natural gas, they still had to burn coal. The buildings were designed with special flue pipes. The reason why the distance between the buildings was enlarged was that it was convenient for the people to communicate with each other. They didn't want to lose the warmth of neighbors because they lived in the buildings. The library wasn't for everyone to study. There would be all kinds of newspapers, chess, and cards in there for a period of time. At that time, the people living in the building would come out to bask in the sun, go to the library to chat, discuss national politics, and scold uncivilized behavior. When the sun was about to set, they would go to the market to buy some food to cook. In order for people to be willing to move in, they would have to relocate the government office and school. Next, they would have to relocate the manpower market and small commodity wholesale market. If there were still not enough people, they would have to build a new stadium nearby. Of course, there would also be a movie theater that would play Li Longji's image first. It was a very conventional method. Not to mention Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, anyone from their generation would have done this. This kind of urban management and relocation knowledge was no longer knowledge, but common sense. Unless the person who came did not care about the common sense of society at all, then there was no other way. He believed that such a person would not be able to survive in this era. When Xiao Bei and the others arrived, they saw the dilapidated courtyard and buildings in front of them. Why isn't anyone paying to fix it? What were the authorities thinking? It's fine if it's broken, but it actually caused the prefectural school to break as well. Also, why didn't the merchants give some money when they saw that it was a prefectural school? The children in the school don't have it easy either, right? Li Yilong put her hands on her waist and shouted in front of the school. The faces of the officials in the school and the government office immediately turned ugly. Xiao Bei and the other 9 people moved a few steps to the side, meaning to tell everyone that they were not in cahoots with him. No matter how poor we are, we can't be poor in education. No matter how hard it is, we can't let the children suffer. The children are our rising sun. Everyone is responsible for the children's education. It needs all of us to protect and contribute. Isn't that right, Xiao Bei? Xiao Bei and the others hid, but Li Yilong did not plan to let them go. After she finished speaking, she asked Xiao Bei. Everyone's eyes turned to Xiao Bei. Xiao Bei turned his head to the other side, as if he was very interested in the ants that were moving insects on a bluestone at the school entrance. Is it going to rain? The ants are moving. After everyone waited for a while, Xiao Bei finally spoke. Xiao Yuan cooperated and walked closer, squatting down to look. He turned back and said to Xiao Bei, "It doesn't look like it. It's a group hunting operation. The ants are very united. I don't know if they will follow when the school moves to a better place in a while." Li Yilong was more embarrassed and said, "Xiao Yuan, you didn't hear what I said just now, right? The school is too dilapidated. Didn't you hear what I said? The school is about to move. The new prefectural school is much better than what we see now." Xiao Yuan felt that there was a problem with Li Yilong's IQ. Li Yilong was scolded, and her face turned slightly red. She defended herself. "When did this happen? I don't know." Look at the local newspaper. Are you Principal Zhou? Hello. It's not the first time I've heard of you. You value the health of the children very much. You often let them participate in exercise. It has a great promoting effect on strengthening the physique of the children in our country. You have worked hard. Xiao Bei said to Li Yilong, turned around and smiled. He went forward and shook hands with the principal. In his heart, he complained. The school was not repaired, but the road at the entrance was repaired. It was full of potholes. What if the children fell? It was better to lay a layer of fine sand. Principal Zhou didn't know that the little guy opposite him was giving him face. He really thought that he did a good job. He raised his hand to touch Xiao Bei's head. After Xiao Bei dodged, he said with a smile, "I haven't done enough. According to the Yaman's instructions, we have to further improve the physical fitness of the children in the school in the future." With Principal Zhou's words, I believe that the future of the school will be beautiful. The learning life of the students will be happy. When will the table tennis competition start? Xiao Bei was really unwilling to talk nonsense with him. Immediately, please. When the children are ready, it will start immediately. Principal Zhou realized that the expression in Xiao Bei's eyes was not very good. He quickly got to the point. Xiao Bei and the others were about to step in when someone suddenly appeared nearby and shouted to Xiao Bei, "Xiao Bei, can I ask you a few questions?" Everyone looked sideways. The person who shouted quickly introduced himself. "I'm the information collector of Izhou newspaper. I want to ask you a few small questions." Xiao Bei thought of the reporter in the story and waved him to come closer. He looked back at the other 8 brothers and sisters, took a deep breath, and the corners of his mouth curved up. He showed a professional smile and said, "Go ahead." The reporter was very happy and said, "My surname is Wang. You can call me Collector Wang. First, I want to ask you a question. Everyone knows that you came here with Xiao Bao and Cuckoo to attack the Arabs. Do you think we can win?" The reporter, surnamed Wang, asked this question with good intentions. He wanted to let the readers of the newspaper know that the Tang Empire could win through the interview. Xiao Yuan and the others felt sorry for Xiao Bei. They hated it when people asked such questions. It was hard to answer. Xiao Bei was in charge of foreign affairs, so he was troubled. At this moment, Xiao Bei showed his professionalism. The expression on his face did not change at all. He was still smiling and said, "The soldiers and soldiers of the Tang Empire are united like a family. No matter what difficulties we face, we will overcome them together. As the country develops, I believe that the future will be better." Reporter Wang was dumbfounded. He looked up and scratched his head. He thought about it as fast as he could and asked, "Xiao Bei, can I ask you a second question? We all know that the Japanese are coming to the Tang Empire, and there will be a lot of them, including their leader. Some people say that we invited them here as a form of deterrence and warning. What do you think of this? The world is the world of the people. Regardless of whether it is an individual or a country, there is a need for communication and cooperation. I look forward to the Tang Empire having a deeper understanding and communication with more countries. In terms of culture and economy, we can exchange what we lack and improve together and develop together." Xiao Bei replied and looked at reporter Wang, indicating that he had finished speaking. Reporter Wang choked. Was this what I asked? If he thought about it carefully, there was indeed a connection. But why did the answer make him feel so uncomfortable? Xiao Bei, thank you for your answers to the previous 2 questions. Let me ask you a third question. It is said that the cannons of the Tang Empire are very lethal, and the Ministry of Works is still researching even more powerful offensive weapons. Can you introduce these cannons and future weapons to us? What effect will their existence have on the surrounding countries? Reporter Wang continued to ask. He didn't believe that he couldn't get something practical out of Xiao Bei. Xiao Bei's eyes moved, and he nodded. Just like what I said before, the Tang Empire is willing to have many exchanges with other countries. We place emphasis on peace. As everyone knows, the Research Institute of the Ministry of Works has developed many technologies that are beneficial to the country and the people. These technologies have made our lives more prosperous, and at the same time, they have the effect of maintaining peace. When the surrounding countries communicate with our country, they have also benefited from our technologies. I firmly believe that in the future, the research results of the Ministry of Works will have a deeper impact on the cooperation between countries. Gatherer Wang, the competition is about to start. Why don't we go in together to gather information about the competition? Seeing that Xiao Bei had answered the 3 questions, Xiao Yuan immediately said to Reporter Wang. Reporter Wang wanted to bang his head against the wall. Other than the people from the Zhang family and Wang family, everyone else was in a state of confusion. They were all trying hard to think. What was Xiao Bei talking about? He was asking about the outcome of the war, the threat to the Japanese, and the level of the country's weapons. But wasn't what he said too general? It was soft and powerless. Xiao Bei looked at the expressions of the people around him and was also depressed. What do you want me to say? You want me to say that it's very easy to invade other countries, other than killing them. I'll capture the rest and make them slaves? You want me to say that the invitations to the Japanese and Xinhua are not only threats, but you can also take advantage of them leaving your own country to use this opportunity to do as much damage as possible? You want me to say that it's easier to kill people with cannons than using knives to kill chickens? Not only are the cannons now very powerful, but the gasoline bombs that the Ministry of Works is going to develop will also cruelly kill the enemy during positional warfare. Can I say this? I'm a diplomat. I have to protect the country's positive image. No matter how dirty the things I do are, I have to make it sound dignified. If you ask me in private, I might tell you the truth. Now, it's going to be in the newspapers. If I let you have your fill, how disappointed will my brothers and sisters be? I, Xiao Bei, am the most outstanding diplomat in my brothers' and sisters' eyes. The group of people walked into the school in a depressed atmosphere. Xiao Yuan held Xiao Bei's hand and praised him. Your answers are too beautiful. You're really like an antelope hanging horns. If it were me, I definitely wouldn't be able to answer such vague questions. It's okay. It's just SOSO. Basic skills. Yes, basic skills. Xiao Bei smiled like a flower and said modestly. When the team arrived at the competition venue, the contestants and the audience were ready. There were not only children in the audience, but also adults. They were probably not busy with work today, so they came to accompany the children to watch the fun. Executive Zhou went up to speak first. He spoke for more than half an hour, from when the academy was first established until now. At the same time, he thought about tomorrow and blessed the motherland. Now, let's welcome the Tang Empire's inspector to speak. Executive Zhou invited Xiao Bei and the others. Xiao Bei glanced at the several officials who were waiting for him to continue speaking. He came to the podium and waved to everyone below, which was greeted with cheers. Then he said, "Today, we are very happy to watch the competition. At noon, my family will send food. There are 8 dishes and 1 soup. Everyone can choose 4 dishes, 2 meat and 2 vegetables. We will eat with you. Now, I announce that the competition begins." After Xiao Bei finished speaking, he went to find his seat. The children below cheered again, and the officials who were waiting to speak were stunned. Men and women covered their mouths and laughed. Zhang Fang rolled her eyes at the officials and muttered, "Let you speak? After you finish speaking, you will have lunch directly. After the competition, you will have dinner." Executive Zhou didn't know what to do. He trotted to the officials of the Yamen and said, "Well, everyone, can you go up now and say something? Didn't you hear that the competition has started?" Start. One of the officials scolded, thinking that Executive Zhou was really unreasonable. Xiao Bei said that the competition had started, but he still dared to come and ask them. He didn't know what Xiao Bei would think if he saw his action. He would fire him later. Later, tell Xiao Bei that our Yamen is responsible for providing the fruit platter. Now, ask someone to prepare it. Buy the good fruits and cut them. After scolding Executive Zhou, the official ordered the people around him. He clearly saw that Xiao Bei glanced at this side, and then Executive Zhou just returned to the podium and said that the competition had started. Would Xiao Bei think that she had already said that the competition had started? But it was useless. She had to ask him, "You are the local official. You are the boss. I can't suppress the local snake. It's over, it's over. I was tricked by that guy surnamed Joe." The competition started, but the official was still worried. His eyes swept over Xiao Bei from time to time. No matter what Xiao Bei did, he felt that it was directed at him. After thinking about it, he was still worried. He leaned over to Xiao Bei and said to him with a smile, "It's really hot. Just now, Executive Zhou asked me before the competition started whether I should prepare a few umbrellas for you. At that time, it was not hot, so I said no. I didn't expect it to be hot again. Do you want to hold up a few?" Xiao Bei's eyes were on the small tennis table. He casually replied, "No, we are still young. Staying in the house all day long is good for our health." Yes, I also think that not being in the sun is bad for our health." The official echoed and finally felt relieved. The competition on the field continued. It was a best-of-3 system. The children played very seriously. The 4 tables competed at the same time. From time to time, cheers could be heard from the audience outside the field. When the sun rose a little higher, Xiao Bei arranged for someone to send out free soda. It was iced. She had heard from her brother and sister that children could not drink carbonated drinks for a long time. They were restricted at home. Therefore, when she came outside, she would drink 2 bottles if she had the chance. It was delicious. When she drank it, her tongue was numb. Time passed in a trance. Noon came. The winner of the last table was decided. The top 16 were decided. After lunch, they would rest for a while before continuing. As a public figure, even if she was eating with others, she could not stop. Xiao Bei first ate 2 taels of rice with the dishes to fill her stomach. Then, she picked up the plate and began to walk around. Xiao Yuan and the others were basically in charge of one direction. They ate with the other children, said a few words, showed concern about their learning and living situation, praised and encouraged them, and then walked to the next place. "Your name is Mao Mao, right? It's a very nice name. It's as nice as my Xiao Bei." Xiao Bei came to the side of a girl who had entered the top 16. The 11 children were eating around the folded round table. After Xiao Bei came over, she squeezed in and sat down. The girl called Mao Mao by Xiao Bei changed her fierce style during the competition. She was very shy. When she heard Xiao Bei speak, she stopped eating and looked at Xiao Bei, waiting for him to continue. "You played really well, especially smashes. When the ball flew high, you smashed it. When the ball flew low, you still smashed it. You actually smashed it quite a few times. I observed your serve. The opponent always missed it easily. You added spin, right?" Xiao Bei continued speaking. At the same time, she lamented in her heart. It was not easy for her. She had to know a little of everything so that she could find common topics with others. "Yes, I added spin. When I was at home, my father specially hired 2 people who were good at basketball to be my masters. Many of my classmates don't know how to spin, so it was easy to beat them." Mao Mao became cheerful with a topic to talk about. "That's great. You've done us girls proud. There are 2 girls in the top 16. You have to continue to play steadily and strive to get first place. Your father is really good to you. Did your father come to watch your competition too? Xiao Bei could tell that Mao Mao's family had a good life. Otherwise, who would specially spend money to hire 2 people to be their daughter's teachers? Xiao Bei asked very casually. Who knew that Mao Mao's eyes would turn red when she heard it? Your father didn't come? He doesn't care about you? Xiao Bei asked softly. Mao shook her head. There's a problem with the family's business. The stock is almost unable to support it. Father said that he went to the bank to get a loan. I'm not sure if he can get it. Stock. Xiao Bei's eyes turned. He couldn't understand. What kind of goods could be suppressed in today's society? Recently, it was the peak period of consumption that her brother had mentioned. If they wanted to sell goods, they could sell them. Yes, stock. We have to pay a lot of money every day. If we don't use money to buy things, the goods will starve to death, Mao said. Starve to death? What work? Your family sells slaves? If you can't sell them, you can let the slaves work or rent them out. Xiao Bei helped to come up with an idea. It's dogs. They're like the dogs raised by people who live in the grasslands. They help with the herding and can fight with wolves. They eat a lot of things every day. In the past, my family raised sheep and cows. Later, my father learned how to raise dogs from others and started raising dogs. Now, the dogs are very big, but no one buys them. After Mao finished speaking, she held her chin and fretted. How many dogs? Can they herd sheep? Xiao Bei wasn't worried. To her, as long as it was a problem with money, it wasn't a problem. 10,000 more than 13,000, Mao replied. How many? Xiao Bei was shocked. Although he had more dogs at home, his family was rich. How much money did Mao's family have to be able to raise 13,000 herding dogs back then? There had to be a place, right? After Xiao Bei asked, she didn't need Mao to repeat herself. She comforted, don't worry, it's fine. Isn't it just 13,000 dogs? I'll invest. Let's cooperate and keep raising them for a few more months. Then, I'll talk to your father after I see him. Chapter 1253. When Mao heard Xiao Bei agree, the worry in her heart disappeared. She immediately promised Xiao Bei, I will definitely get first place in this afternoon's competition. I will show the other boys that we girls are better than them. First, we must be first. This, friendship comes first. Xiao Bei wanted to say that girls were better than boys, but she suddenly remembered her identity. She was afraid that she would put too much pressure on Mao and not perform well, so she could only say something official. However, Xiao Bei said, you have to perform well, show yourself, and respect the spirit of sports. What's your surname? What's your father's name? Xiao Bei was not in the mood to tell Mao what her surname was or what her father's name was. She asked very straightforwardly. She still had to negotiate later. There were more than 13,000 dogs. She had to take good care of them. Many puppies would appear in 3 or 4 months. If she grasped the opportunity, she could make a lot of money. Xiao Bei had not been in a good mood for the past 2 days. She kept finding trouble with Xiao Yuan. Xiao Yuan had no choice but to find her family's doctor. After observation and diagnosis, she found that she was under too much pressure. To a large extent, it was caused by the negotiations with her brother and sister. In fact, it had only been a few days, but Xiao Bei had never experienced such a difficult negotiation. More importantly, it was difficult for the 9 of them. As the target of the negotiation, her brother and sister had nothing to do. They dealt with the military, political, and economic information on time every day. Then, they ate and slept well. When she woke up this morning, she even heard 2 people running to the rooftop. One was playing the guitar, the other was playing the piano, and they were singing Swallows Fly Together. It was too much of a blow. She had to prove herself in other ways. Xiao Bei and the other 8 siblings had been thinking about what to do to divert their attention. They wanted to temporarily break away from the vicious circle of negotiations with her brother and sister and redefine themselves. The doctor said that her psychological behavior was not normal now. She needed psychotherapy and wanted to send a professional doctor to help. In the end, Xiao Bei and the others refused. They did not need anyone's help. They could adjust themselves. Xiao Bei thought that she had found an opportunity to cooperate with Mao Mao's father. Then, in the next 6 months, they would invest, raise, breed, train, migrate, rent, or sell. In this way, she could temporarily get rid of the pressure brought by her brother and sister. Mao Mao did not know that Xiao Bei had her own difficulties. Xiao Bei looked at Xiao Bei's excited expression and thought that she had thought of a good idea to help her father. Then he said, "My surname is Song. My father is Song.com. Xiao Bei, are you going to lend me some money?" "I'm not lending. I just said that we're working together. Borrowing money is for a moment, and working together is for a long time." After saying that, Xiao Bei felt like he was lying to Mao Mao, so he continued, "It's easy for me to lend money to your family, but your family's development is still slow. Why don't you work with us? Our channels for obtaining information are different. It may seem like your father's share of the profits is relatively small, but in terms of absolute profits, it is much more. I don't understand. In any case, I believe in you. You won't harm my family. If even you want to harm my father, then the great Tang will have no hope." Mao Mao said very seriously, "Of course, we can do wrong things with a kind heart, but we definitely can't do right things with a bad heart. Brother and sister don't care if we fail to help others. At most, they will be responsible for compensating for the loss. But they won't allow us to build our success on the pain of others." Xiao Bei promised Mao Mao. She knew that after her group of children did something, there would always be brothers and sisters helping to clean up the mess. Even if they knew that they were not doing well enough, they still supported them from behind. The purpose was to train the 9 of them. The prerequisite was that they had to put their hearts and minds in the right place. "My father should be here in a while. The person in charge of the loan at the bank will be resting at noon." Mao Mao was afraid that Xiao Bei would be anxious from waiting, so he said this, "I'm not in a hurry. You play well. I'll go somewhere else to take a look." Xiao Bei ate 2 mouthfuls of rice and 4 mouthfuls of dishes at this table. She picked up the plate and continued to walk to another table. After lunchtime, Xiao Bei and the 9 of them finally had time to rest. She asked someone to bring them a bowl of hot soup and finished the food on the plate. Each of them held a large pear and listened to the Yamen officials who had also finished eating speak on the stage. At the same time, they pondered over what Xiao Bei had just said. Mao Mao's father hadn't arrived yet. She really couldn't wait. She could only look for him personally after the table tennis competition ended. Officials really talk a lot. They don't stop talking. 4 or 5 meters in front of Xiao Bei and the others, a man's complaining voice sounded. As soon as this person finished speaking, another person beside him said they wanted to say it before, but Xiao Bei said that the competition had started first. They didn't dare to say anything. Now that they're resting, if they don't say what they've prepared beforehand, wouldn't it be a waste of time? I don't object to their words. When children play, they say that children are good. What did you hear them say? Economic construction. My child is only 6 years old. Do you want him to carry bricks? Speaking of economic construction, it's better to talk about the safety of children's meals. My child came home a few days ago and told me that when we ate at school, half of the salted duck egg was smelly. The third person turned his head and complained to the 2 people who had spoken earlier. Xiao Bei and the others' attention couldn't help but be attracted. How could they give smelly eggs? When I was young, I liked to eat smelly salted eggs the most. If they weren't smelly, I wouldn't eat them. At that time, they were all smelly. We're poor. My 2 children are like me. They're willing to eat smelly eggs. In the future, when your children encounter smelly eggs, they can exchange them with my children. It's fine if the salted eggs are smelly, as long as the meat isn't. The second person who spoke retorted the third person. While speaking, the sound of saliva swallowing could be heard. It seemed that he really liked to eat smelly salted eggs. Xiao Yuan, have you eaten salted and smelly eggs? Xiao Bei was very curious. Why did people like to eat smelly eggs? Xiao Yuan shook his head. No, the ones we eat are not smelly. The yellow ones are oily. I heard that brother's guard at the door say that there's someone in the kitchen who specially marinates the smelly salted eggs. It seems that the eggs are marinated for a period of time. Why don't we go back to the kitchen and ask? Try a few. It's probably similar to stinky tofu. Anyway, it's marinated for more than 28 days. Seems like there's no problem with the school's food. Xiao Bei had just eaten and wasn't hungry. He didn't think too much about the smelly eggs for the time being. The three people who had spoken earlier seemed to have found a topic and began to discuss the smelly, salted eggs. Some said that if there wasn't enough salt, the eggs couldn't be eaten. Others said that the eggs that had been taken out to dry under the sun couldn't be eaten. As they spoke, the topic went astray. From the salted eggs under the sun to the deterioration of the ham under the sun. From the deterioration of the ham to the deliciousness of the air-dried chicken. From the air-dried chicken to the roast duck of Sanchuay County. From the sweet sauce of the roast duck to the shredded meat that could be used to make the sweet sauce. From the shredded meat in sweet sauce to the planting techniques of green onions. From the need to bury them deep in the soil so that there would be more green onions. From the deep soil to the yam eggs. From the yam eggs to the potatoes that hadn't been popularized yet. From the potatoes to the benefits of foreign species. From the benefits of foreign species to the practical use of plunder in war. From war to artillery. Speaking of artillery, the person who had spoken first began to comment on artillery in an authoritative manner. It's indeed powerful, especially when used against man-eating cavalry. Once it's fired, even the horses would be scared off. The people on top would fall down like dumplings. I've thought about it before. It's powerful, but it's too expensive. How many bullets can one shell make? The imperial court should use more bullets to hit people. That's not right. How can bullets be compared to shells? How far can bullets fly? How far can shells fly? Shells explode everywhere. It's hard to say if the bullets can hit people. Current guns can only shoot up to 500 meters, while shells can fly up to 1,000 meters. The third person who spoke commented like an expert. The first person who spoke was unconvinced. Who told you that bullets can only shoot up to 500 meters? You're talking about pistols. Long guns can shoot up to 3,000 meters, and shells can fly up to 7,000 to 8,000 meters without a problem. Xiao Bei and the others looked at each other and communicated with their eyes. In the end, they confirmed that this person was talking nonsense. The best pistol at home could shoot up to 130 meters, while the average one could shoot up to 40 meters. The furthest one could shoot up to 170 meters. Long guns could indeed shoot further. The furthest one could shoot up to 2,500 to 600 meters, with a killing range of 1,400 meters. This kind of gun was very rare. Most of them required a killing range of 100 to 400 meters. The special sniper rifle at home could only shoot up to 1,100 meters. That didn't mean that it could shoot as far as it could accurately shoot the enemy. Xiao Bei and Xiao Bei had said that the manufacturing of guns was still not accurate. They relied on many imprecise situations to produce an accurate gun by chance. Or it could be specially modified later. With the addition of a scope, it could only shoot up to 800 meters and have a higher hit rate. Usually, they pursued an accurate sniper shot up to 400 meters. Moreover, good marksmanship at this distance did not require a scope. As for shells, they could only fly up to 4,000 meters, which was the furthest one could go. Usually, the guns used could not shoot as far as guns, such as grenade launchers, small infantry cannons, and mortars. When the 9 people felt that the 3 people speaking were interesting, they continued to listen to them. Don't argue, don't argue. The second person who spoke tried to persuade them. Anyway, we don't know. I only know that the weapons of the Tang Empire are powerful. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo would rather spend more money than to let the soldiers pay with their lives. Speaking of the real source, I think it's the transportation cost. Due to the confidentiality of the technology, they have been transported from Luzhou, Jili province, and the capital to the front line. I heard that the munitions factory is going to be placed here and at the seaside. When the time comes, there will be a lot of soldiers guarding it. There are many places we can't go. Even if we want to visit, we have to check 8 generations of ancestors. We are not allowed to bring anything with fire or dangerous metal pieces on us. That's right. You can't even bring a needle. The first person who spoke continued, I know. There's a needle at the back of the gun. If you poke it forward, the bullet will fly out. You want to bring a needle over and make the bullet fly out? You know? I'll join the military training tomorrow and touch the gun. I'll tell you when I come back. The third person still didn't like the first person. The two of them had quarreled just now. The second person who spoke began to persuade them again. Go. I found that after the transported things are put down, the things that have just been robbed or excavated are transported elsewhere. The transportation is switched section by section. The road here is not easy to travel, whether by water or land. After the last section is finished, many cars and boats can't go back immediately. The cars need to be repaired, the boats need to be checked for wear and tear, and the animals need to rest. Generally, the animals need to rest for 10 days before they can go on the road again. Is it because they can't do anything with the extra 10 days? Animals need to rest, but people don't. People just need to sleep. As a result, there are more idlers. As a local, I'm afraid that they will cause trouble. I'm also worried. They need to eat. I'm worried that the price will be raised. But this can't be helped. Maybe we can only solve part of the problem when the munitions factory is built here, the first person said. The third person didn't continue to argue with the first person. Instead, he said, if I have a business, I'll hire them temporarily. Anyway, they have nothing to do. They have good stamina to do transportation. Let's stop talking. The officials have finally finished reading. The competition is about to start. The top 16. Haha, this group of little guys is so nice. The second person sat up straight and looked forward to the start of the competition. I'm going to pee. The third person stood up. Let's go together. The first person followed. After sitting up straight for 2 seconds, the second person also stood up. After listening to you, I also feel suffocated. I didn't drink much water just now. The 3 people left, but Xiao Bei and the other 9 people couldn't focus on the competition. Xiao Bei turned his head and asked the inner court next to him, are there many people staying in Izhou to repair the boats and carriages? Yes, and there are also people who drive the animals. The road is not easy to travel, so the animals can't go back immediately. They need to grow fat. It takes about 10 days. As for the donkeys, they don't need to rest for too long. Their bodies can recover, but donkeys have bad tempers. The inner court answered. Xiao Bei thought for a while and then asked, can't we ask them to work? The situation has just started, so other logistics are still transported from nearby places. The cannonballs in the distance were transported before and were escorted by soldiers. Later on, people started to use manpower. It will take about a month at the earliest to arrive. Maybe after a while, there will be more idle people. However, it's not easy to recruit local people. Excluding their rest time, they can do other things in less than 8 days. The inner court answered again. Stupid. How can it be a waste of manpower? Xiao Bei felt that 8 days or even 7 days was a lot. The main problem was that for people who only transported goods, they only had a little free time. In fact, there was a 7-day periodic labor overflow in Izhou. It was like a part of the money from the bank was never taken away. Xiao Yuan, do you think it will be helpful to us if we make good use of them? Xiao Bei asked Xiao Yuan, who was closest to her. Xiao Yuan lowered her head and thought. Xiao Hai suddenly said, we need to choose the type of work well. The longest continuous cycle can't exceed 7 days. It's suitable for short-term, non-continuous work, such as dockside porters or construction site porters. In fact, farming is also fine. We can hire many people at once and plow a large area of land in a short time. But now, the farming season is past. If we change to embroidery, breeding, hotel service, carving, wine, and other industries, it's not suitable to ask them to work. The other 8 children nodded. They felt that Xiaohai was right. If they wanted to use this labor force, they had to consider clearly what they wanted them to do. After a while, the top 4 were decided. Xiaobei's eyes lit up and she suggested, according to what Brother Xiaohai said, let them participate in the construction site porter work. Brother and sister have designed a new city area and are lacking manpower. Why don't we find them and let them work for 7 days? The other locals can do other things. What do you think? If you agree, we have to do it quickly. Otherwise, others will beat us to it, especially brother and sister. If they think of it first, we have nothing else to do. How can we continue to negotiate? Let's take a break. It's tiring. You didn't directly negotiate, so you won't understand the frustration. In the beginning, I hoped that brother would miscalculate the benefits. Later, I settled for the second best, hoping that brother would fight over the details of our negotiation. That would mean that brother had no other choice. Dreams are beautiful, but reality is cruel. Even if it was sister, none of my expectations were realized. It's difficult, really difficult. Why don't one of you give it a try? Xiaobei looked at Xiao Yuan. Xiao Yuan quickly shook her head. I know without trying. We feel that it's difficult now. Back when brother and sister were younger than us, how difficult was it when they went to negotiate with that bunch of officials? That bunch of old fogies were all smart. We feel that we can't handle this little bit of pressure. How did brother and sister persevere? Everyone praises brother for being a serial schemer, but wasn't the situation back then continuous? Who was the opponent? Every time brother and sister gave in, they would definitely leave behind an opportunity to advance. Countless times, they took advantage of losses to achieve what they have today. If we want to reach brother and sister's height, we have to suffer even more. So what if it's difficult to negotiate with brother and sister? If it really doesn't work out, we can give up on negotiations and ask directly. Brother and sister will give it to us. Back then, brother and sister couldn't give up. Thinking about it this way, do you feel better? All right, when we can compete with brother and sister in a battle of wits, we can go anywhere in the world. Now, there's an opportunity to integrate the surplus labor force produced during the transportation process due to objective conditions. We'll let brother and sister see that we're still very powerful. Xiaobei's mood had indeed improved. Wasn't it just that they felt that they had failed in the negotiation because they couldn't get any benefits? What was the big deal? Their opponents were very, very impressive. They were brother and sister who could fight with the entire imperial court officials, including Uncle Emperor and win. After thinking it through, the 9 little fellows began to arrange people to keep an eye on the various transportation teams and pull them together to provide labor output to the construction site. They themselves were waiting for Mao Mao's father, Song Dekong, to appear quickly. This way, they would have 2 new business deals and increase their own advantage in the process of negotiating with brother and sister. The competition was still going on. The 3 parents who had previously said that they were going to the outhouse did not go back. They gathered together to talk. Big brother, the 2 of us cooperated pretty well, right? Did we reveal any flaws? The second person who spoke asked the first person who spoke. The first person who spoke wiped the sweat on his forehead and shook his head. I don't think so. I believe that with the little ancestors' intelligence, they should be able to think of recruiting people to work. It's really not easy for Little Master and Little Lady. On one hand, they're attacking Xiaobei, Little Master, and on the other hand, giving them new hope. Big Brother is right. Everyone says that our Xiaobei and Xiao Yuan are very powerful. There's also Daonan and Xiaonan, Xiaoqiang, and the others. The common people think that they're all good. They only think that it's magical and good feng shui. Only we know how Little Master and Little Lady educate their younger siblings. Have those adults who think that their children can't compare to other people's children ever thought about how much they've sacrificed? In fact, it's like planting crops. Leaving it alone and carefully tending to it will definitely result in different results. The third person who spoke sighed. He was also so nervous that he was sweating. If the little ancestors had seen through him just now, not only would he not be able to complete the task that Little Master and Little Lady had asked him to adjust his younger sibling's mood, it would even make the little ancestors feel even more sad. How's the other aspect? Will Song Dakong spill the beans? The first person who spoke, who was also the big brother, asked. The two people shook their heads. One of them said, "It shouldn't be wrong. Last night, Little Master deliberately asked someone to set up a trap and made an agreement with Song Dakong." The little ancestors gave people a lot of pressure, but they didn't give people pressure from themselves. They gave people pressure because of Little Master and Little Lady. Who is Song Dakong more afraid of? That's right. Let's wait for the news. We've made a contribution. I hope the little guys can grow up well. My child is about to be born. When he's born, I'll directly send him to the department in charge of parenting in the inner yard. I estimate that after 10 years, even if he can't compare to the little ancestors, he'll be close to them. When the big brother talked about his unborn child, his eyes were full of gentleness. He was very confident in the education system of the inner yard children. I'm a dog breeder. I'm short of loans. I can't raise dogs anymore. I'm a dog breeder. I'm short of loans. Outside the prefectural academy, Song Dakong kept repeating the same sentence in front of a small mirror in his hand. He had been practicing since last night. After sleeping in a daze, he started to repeat it again in the morning. But he was still worried. He was indeed a dog breeder, and he was really short of money. He needed a loan, but he was not in a hurry. He used to provide funds for 4 schools at the same time. He took 6% of the total funds provided by the society for each school. Moreover, he used money to build roads and simple bridges for several villages. With the receipt, he could easily get a loan from a bank. But Song Dakong didn't want to do that. 6 years ago, when he planned to invest money in the Chaoyang operation, he never thought of getting a loan through this. He just felt that since he had money, it was right to help more children. He helped people to build bridges and roads, and it was very comfortable to hear a word of praise. If he had to do that today, before he got a loan, he felt that it was demeaning to himself. He was willing to spend money on the children, but it was not for any benefits. He planned to find someone to borrow some money to get through this uncomfortable period of time. Who would have thought that Xiao Bao would send someone to find him last night? He asked him to tell his daughter that he would get a loan and then come to see her. He said that with his daughter's playing skills, there was a great chance that she could attract Xiao Bei and the others, and thus pave the way for him to appear. There were 2 other people who had also received the mission. One was a herdsman in the northern area of Hebei province. Later, he moved his family to Izhou, and now he was not doing well. The other was a man who had a lot of contact with the Turks in Fengzhou and raised eagles and hounds at home. 3 years ago, he came to Izhou with 5 eagles. Xiao Bao told him not to be surprised or excited when he saw the 2 of them. Perhaps he wouldn't be able to meet them, or perhaps he wouldn't be able to connect with Xiao Bei and the others. In that case, he would have to act 1 or a few more times until they connected. That was because his 13,000 plus dogs were very useful. So now was the time to test himself. He had to be steady and treat it as the first time he met Xiao Bei. In fact, it was the first time he met Xiao Bei. He had to be like a normal person. No, a normal person. He repeated it twice, and then went in. Song Dakong kept encouraging himself. As expected, he repeated it twice in front of the mirror, took a deep breath, and walked into the school. You're tuning in to the Echo Reads YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.